the supreme black dragon throne. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction. So please don't attempt real magic, the results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 51. A cunning pig has 3 burrows. Simon let out a ferocious laugh. Under his leadership, the lizardmen and goblins began a massacre of the pigmen. The pigmen tried to resist, but to no avail. The last pigman finally fell. HMPH, ungrateful wretch, I wouldn't even deign to take them under my command? Simon sneered. Little one, I've avenged you, Simon said, turning to Andy. Andy beamed, overjoyed at regaining her freedom and getting her revenge. Black Dragon, are those fairy flowers important to you? Andy asked curiously. Simon smiled slightly. They're delicious. Andy was speechless. Where are the fairy flowers you cultivated in the pigman tribe? Simon looked around, but couldn't see any fairy flowers. Andy said she could cultivate up to 1,000 fairy flowers at a time. Such a large number of flowers would surely create a spectacular sea of flowers. But the pigman tribe clearly didn't have such a sight. Underground, Andy flapped his 2 pairs of wings. Those damned pigmen imprison the underground. Without sunlight, the fairy flower not only matures slowly, but its power also weakens considerably. As its name suggests, the fairy flower is certainly not a harmless flower. Mature fairy flowers emit a special gas. This gas is colorless and odorless. Once inhaled, it causes hallucinations, drawing the user to the fairy flower and ultimately making them its nourishment. If properly cultivated, the fairy flower's rays would possess second-tier strength. These pigmen are utterly foolish, wasting such a precious resource. Second-tier fairy flowers are far more powerful than these extraordinary wild boars, and they can be mass-produced, Andy said angrily. Brave Goblin, you 2 go and bring me the fairy flower, Simon said. This is the advantage of having followers. With Simon's size, entering the underground was impossible. Yes, Lizardman Bray and Goblin followed Andy into a large wooden hut belonging to the pigman tribe. It's down here, Andy pointed to the floor from midair. Bray looked closely and indeed found a hidden passage. He pulled back the floorboards. A deep, dark passage appeared at the bottom. Goblin and Bray exchanged a glance. Their relationship had become closer after the war with the pigman tribe. Before they could act, Andy flew in first. Bray and Goblin could only quickly follow. Suddenly, Goblin shouted, "Watch out!" He acted, thrusting his spear forward. With a soft thud, it pierced flesh. Bray and the elf were startled. A mere pigman dares to ambush you. Goblin removed the spear, and the pigman collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Living in caves year-round, even the weak goblins possessed the ability to see clearly in the dark. Thank you so much, Bray breathed a sigh of relief, then cast a grateful glance at Goblin. Although he was stronger than Goblin, the pigman tribe was now wiped out, and he hadn't expected that there would still be remnants surviving in the underground passage, even launching an attack. The passage was pitch black, so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Thanks to Goblin's help, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. Wow, those pigmen are really cunning, Andy said indignantly. No one present harbored as much resentment towards these pigmen as Andy. So, seeing the pigmen die before his eyes, Andy felt no panic, but rather an inexplicable sense of pleasure. You can't see the way here, I'll go first, Goblin volunteered. Andy and Bray naturally didn't refuse. Led by Goblin, the 3 of them quickly moved forward. Soon, they saw light ahead. Be careful, there might still be pigmen attacking us, Bray said warily. As they walked forward, the darkness dissipated. The 3 arrived at a spacious room. Torches were stuck into the surrounding stone walls, illuminating the room with their intense light. A sea of flowers came into view, their pink blossoms filling the air under the firelight. A small flame flickered and danced within the flowers. Soon, the fire spread, engulfing all the fairy flowers. Ah, the flowers. My flowers, Andy screamed. It was that pigman, that damned pigman. He knew Black Dragon Simon valued my words, knew the pigman tribe was doomed, so he came early to destroy the fairy flowers I planted. Andy gritted his teeth in anger. What are you waiting for? Goblin, let's put out the fire together. Did you see how much Black Dragon values these flowers? If we can't bring them back, and Black Dragon gets angry, both our tribes will suffer his wrath. Bray charged into the flames first. Goblin paused for a moment upon hearing this, but quickly recovered. He had witnessed Simon's brutality firsthand. If they couldn't bring back even a single fairy flower, he and Bray would be waiting to meet inside Simon's stomach. Realizing this, Goblin rushed into the sea of fire, intending to save as many as he could. Andy darted through the air, but dared not enter the flames, only stamping his feet in frustration. A moment later, the flames gradually died down, and Goblin and Bray sat panting on the ground, several fairy flowers they had barely managed to save beside them. We can only say we managed to save this many. Hopefully, Lord Black Dragon won't eat us in his anger, Bray gasped. Then he, Andy, and Goblin took the fairy flowers and returned the way they came. When they emerged from the secret passage, their disheveled appearance immediately attracted the attention of the other lizardmen and goblins. What happened to you two? Why are you even worse off than us after just one trip in? Their companions asked with curiosity and concern. Goblin and Bray were about to answer when a dragon had approached, its gaze fixed intently on them. Simon immediately spotted the fairy flowers in Bray and Goblin's arms. These fairy flowers were badly damaged. If it weren't for their disheveled appearance, Simon would have killed them on the spot. Tell me, how did you get into this state? Simon spoke, his voice icy cold, as if he would devour them if they didn't provide a satisfactory explanation. Goblin and Bray didn't dare hesitate and quickly recounted what had happened in the secret passage. Upon hearing this, Simon flew into a rage. You three idiots. It's impossible for flames to burn down a sea of flowers underground without sufficient oxygen. That secret passage must have another exit. Pigmen must have escaped through it. Chapter 52 Pig Apostles. Oxygen, what is that? Andy, Bray, and Goblin exchanged bewildered glances. Not only them, but the other lizardmen and goblins around them were also confused. Simon, too lazy to explain, simply stated, in short, these pigmen left other exits in the underground tunnels, and a small group of them escaped quietly through one of these tunnels. The goblins will all stay behind to transport the pigmen tribe's supplies back, while the lizardmen will search the vicinity for the pigmen. They can't have gone far. Simon had immediately guessed that a small group of pigmen might have moved away beforehand when he learned that the pigmen had a secret tunnel exit. Lord Black Dragon, the underground tunnels are pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face, but the goblins have night vision. Why don't we let the goblins search the tunnels? Goblin suggested. Simon hadn't expected the seemingly weak goblins to possess such an ability, so he nodded in agreement. The goblins sprang into action, swarming into the underground tunnels like a dense mass of ants. Just as Simon had predicted, a group of pigmen had already left through the underground passage. They appeared in a corner of the magic crystal forest. About 7 or 8 pigmen gathered together. They glanced back towards the tribe, their eyes filled with hatred. Black Dragon. I, Wild Ironhead, swear I will kill you in this lifetime. A young pigman clenched his hooves, the seed of hatred taking root in his heart. Just then, young Wild Ironhead suddenly heard a voice in his mind. Do you crave power? Wild Ironhead was stunned. Who is speaking? The surrounding pigmen sighed when they saw Wild Ironhead's appearance. Wild Ironhead, I know you are heartbroken. We all feel the same way as you right now, but that black dragon is too powerful. We must survive to have a chance for revenge. The life and death of the tribe rests on our shoulders. We must live well so as not to let down the sacrifices of our fallen comrades. A pigman stepped forward to comfort Wild Ironhead. But Wild Ironhead seemed to be in a special state, unable to hear the voices of the other pigmen. The voice echoed in Wild Ironhead's mind once more. Do you crave power? Wild Ironhead blinked and subconsciously replied, no, I crave breasts. The voice in his mind paused abruptly, then spoke again. Do you crave breasts? The voice was like a succubus from hell, full of irresistible allure, tempting Wild Ironhead. Sign a contract with me, become my apostle, and I will give you endless breasts. Wild Ironhead was utterly bewildered. By becoming your apostle, can I take revenge on the black dragon? Wild Ironhead couldn't figure out the source of the voice, nor did he understand the other party's purpose, but if he could kill the black dragon, he would be willing to do anything. Not only will you be able to kill the black dragon, but you will also become the pinnacle of the world, and countless creatures will strive towards you. It has to be said, The voice in his mind was good at making empty promises. Just one sentence made Wild Ironhead's blood boil. I'm willing, Wild Ironhead nodded repeatedly in agreement. The next moment, Wild Ironhead's eyes gradually became bloodshot, turning blood red. The state of communicating only with voices in his mind completely disappeared, and he heard the concerned voices of the pigmen beside him. Wild Ironhead, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? The pigman looked Wild Ironhead up and down with concern. Wild Ironhead's nose twitched, and he suddenly felt a surge of hunger, a hunger as if he hadn't eaten for dozens of days. A hunger that would devour any food placed before him. Looking at his concerned pigman comrade, Wild Ironhead couldn't help but lean closer and say, "Brother, you smell so good." Just as his pigman comrade was stunned, Wild Ironhead opened his mouth wide and bit down hard on the former's neck, tearing off a chunk of flesh. Wild Ironhead didn't even chew and swallowed it whole. The pigman, with a large chunk of flesh torn off, lay stunned on the ground. Wild Ironhead transformed into a beast, pounced on the pigman and devoured him frantically. The other pigmen couldn't help but scream at the sight. "Wild Ironhead, what are you doing? Wild Ironhead's gone mad. Wild Ironhead's gone mad, stop it, you lunatic." A pigman boldly picked up a wooden stick and struck Wild Ironhead on the back. With a bang, the stick broke, but Wild Ironhead was completely unharmed. He stopped, turned to look at his brethren, his entire body stained with blood, his face contorted in a grotesque grimace. "You all smell so good." Wild Ironhead swallowed hard. Cries of agony and curses rang out. A moment later, only one pigman, his body stained crimson with blood, stood on the land. His blood seemed to possess a magical power, constantly merging into his body and transforming it. After a few short minutes, the pigman's entire body turned a translucent red, like a piece of jade. "Tell me, what is your ability?" the voice in his mind echoed again. Wild Ironhead replied, "Devour. I can convert the abilities of the creatures I eat into my own." Upon hearing such an incredibly powerful ability, the voice in his mind couldn't help but laugh. "Ho ha ho ha, from now on you are the pig apostle. Go, head south, and become its king." Driven by the voice, Wild Ironhead, no, the pig apostle, began walking south. "Lord Black Dragon, we found the escaped pigmen, but they're all dead," Goblin reported loudly to Simon. Simon paused. "Dead?" Goblin nodded. "Yes, Lord Black Dragon, those pigmen seem to have been attacked by some powerful monster. Even their corpses were devoured, leaving only a pile of bones. If it weren't for the strong pigmen aura surrounding them, we wouldn't have been able to identify those bones as pigmen." Simon didn't seem to care. "Dead or not, the pigman tribe still has some supplies. Take them back and share them with the lizardman tribe." The supplies in the pigman tribe were quickly emptied. Among them, besides the extraordinary wild boars, the most important were the fairy flower seeds. Simon looked at some fairy flowers that Bray and Goblin had rescued earlier, thought for a moment, and then ate them, consuming a Tier 1 fairy flower, size plus 0.03 meters, consuming a Tier 1 fairy flower, size plus 0.02 meters, consuming a Tier 1 fairy flower, size plus 0.04 meters, consuming a large number of Tier 1 fairy flowers, size plus 0.24 meters. Because these fairy flowers were ravaged by flames, even after consumption, their size wouldn't increase much. Simon could only silently shake his head, feeling a pang of regret. The number of fairy flower seeds was limited. To unleash Andy's full potential, it would likely take several months to cultivate the fairy flowers. Chapter 53. Looking towards the future. Is this Simon's territory? It feels rather shabby. With the war over, the Pigman tribe's resources were carried back to Simon's territory by the goblins and lizardmen. Simon's newly acquired follower, the elf Andy, naturally also returned with the main force. Aren't dragons supposed to love collecting gold and jewels? Why is Simon's territory so deserted? Just a few small tribes? Andy expressed his regret. To this, Simon replied generously, "Of course I like gold and jewels, but more than gold and jewels, you loyal followers are my most precious treasure. You are more valuable than any gold or jewels." Upon hearing this, all the followers who heard it were stunned, standing there for a long while before they reacted. "We never expected Lord Black Dragon to value us so much. Lord Black Dragon actually considers us more valuable than gold and jewels. This is truly moving for the goblins. Lord Black Dragon, I, Goblin Head, swear to be loyal to you to the death. I, Goblin Lang, also swear to be loyal to Lord Black Dragon to the death." "Me too, and me," The followers wept with emotion, declaring their undying loyalty. Goblins made up the vast majority of them. Before Simon's arrival, they lived in constant fear, always at the risk of being killed by orcs. Now, as Simon's followers, not only was their safety guaranteed, but they had also learned to raise fish, no longer worrying about food. In terms of tribal honor, they had even defeated the powerful pigman tribe. The goblin tribe could be said to have reached the pinnacle of success under Simon's leadership. Therefore, each goblin possessed an extremely high level of loyalty. Excellent. I see your loyalty. Your devotion moves me. Simon, swear that as long as I have a bite to eat, I will never let you go hungry. I will lead you to continuous development. We are no less capable than humans. Why can humans build vast cities? We can do it too. In the future, we will be able to trade with humans, possess delicious food, and obtain superior weapons and armor. We will also learn powerful combat skills and explore the mysterious mysteries of magic. Whether you are a lizardman or a goblin, you will have the opportunity to become extraordinary beings, extend your lifespan, become powerful, and reach the pinnacle. Even if you haven't eaten pork, haven't you seen a pig run? Simon's promises were quite impressive. He stood up, arms raised high. The midday sun shone on Simon, making his figure appear even taller and more imposing to his followers. The followers, energized by Simon's passionate speech, became excited. They began to imagine the life Simon described. Wow, what a wonderful world that would be. Long live Lord Black Dragon, someone shouted, immediately eliciting echoes from the others. Long live Lord Black Dragon, long live Lord Black Dragon. Old lizardman Abby's face darkened at the sight. Compared to the other followers, Abby was arguably Simon's most intelligent. He had always tried to lead the lizardman tribe away from Simon's control, but Simon's prestige was now soaring. Under Simon's leadership, the lizardman tribe had even defeated the powerful pigman tribe. If you were to propose breaking away from Simon now, the other lizardmen would likely be the first to object. Alright, I've seen your loyalty. Now, let's get to work. Divide the supplies from the pigman tribe equally, then roast those extraordinary wild boars. I want to eat, Andy. Find a suitable spot to plant fairy flowers. Pick a plot and start planting immediately. Simon gestured twice, and the surroundings immediately quieted down. At Simon's command, both tribes immediately began work. Andy also began searching for a suitable area to plant fairy flowers. The fairy flowers emit a hallucinogenic aura when they mature, and the hallucinogenic effect of a large number of fairy flowers is even more deadly. We need to stay away from these lizardmen and goblins. Andy looked around and finally decided to plant them on the mountain. Simon's territory was right outside the cave where the goblins lived. A tall mountain stood there. Andy flew into the mountain and scattered the seeds. His wings flapped rapidly behind him, scattering starlight as the seeds were buried in the soil. This was Andy's special ability as a flower fairy, which could make plants mature faster. The extraordinary wild boar he obtained from the pigman tribe was also slowly roasted and brought to Simon. Simon hadn't gone out hunting these days and was already starving. However, dragons can store energy in their bodies and can go without food and water for a period of time. Otherwise, those dragons that sleep for years at a time would have starved to death long ago. Consuming one tier 2 wild boar increases size by 0.4 meters. Consuming one tier 2 wild boar increases size by 0.35 meters. Consuming a large number of tier 2 wild boars increases size by 7.8 meters. After breaking through to tier 6, the bonus from consuming these tier 2 extraordinary wild boars decreased slightly. Fortunately, the pigman tribe had bred quite a few extraordinary wild boars, and the accumulation of numbers still provided Simon with a significant increase in size. Soon, at this rate, I'll break through to tier 7 soon. Now it's up to the orcs. Thinking of this, Simon couldn't help but greedily lick his lips. Goor, when will you break through to tier 5? I can't wait any longer. Let me lend you a hand. As the saying goes, life or death battles are the best way to improve strength. Simon's patience was limited, and he really couldn't wait any longer. The desire to devour the crimson jade serpent continued to swell in his heart. With his thick hide and imposing presence, Simon was confident he could even contend with an 8th tier transcendent creature. However, who could guarantee that the crimson jade serpent wouldn't be able to fight beyond its tier? Therefore, raising his strength to the 7th tier was the safest option. Based on Simon's current strength prediction, he might break through to the 7th tier when he reached 35 meters in size. Bray, Goblin. Simon summoned 2 warriors. Lord Black Dragon, what are your orders? Bray and Goblin knelt on one knee, respectfully inquiring. After Simon's previous speech and the victory over the Pigman tribe, Bray and Goblin were now utterly loyal to him. How do you feel about the war with the Pigman tribe? Simon, lying prone, faced Bray and Goblin with his massive dragon head. Goblin replied, extremely exhilarating, we destroyed the Pigman tribe, obtaining enough food for several years, and also a great deal of leather. No goblins will freeze to death this winter. Simon turned to look at Bray. Lord Black Dragon, I do not like war, but if you can make me stronger, then I am willing to become your sharpest spear, Bray answered loudly, his eyes gleaming with a thirst for power. Simon nodded in satisfaction. Very well, then prepare for war once more. We will be attacking the Orc tribe. Chapter 54 I'm not afraid even if the gods come. Simon was preparing to wage war against the Orc tribes. However, this time, he didn't intend to directly attack as he had with the Pigman tribes. He wanted to help Gur successfully break through from the 4th rank to the 5th rank. Currently, Gur's strength was at the advanced 4th rank of the extraordinary realm, still some distance from breaking through to the 5th rank. All Simon needed to do was put pressure on him. Whether orc or human, all life in the world was the same. Under immense pressure, one either broke through the pressure and achieved something great, or was completely crushed by the pressure. Simon would continuously besiege the orcs. At that time, Gur would only have 2 choices. The first was to break through to the 5th rank under pressure, greatly increase his strength, and then lead his people to launch a counterattack. After all, in Gur's eyes, Simon was only at the 5th rank, and when he came to Simon's side, he would be killed by the 6th rank Simon. The second, of course, was to be crushed by the pressure, unable to break through to the 5th rank, give up on himself, abandon resistance, and ultimately be killed by Simon. No matter what Gur chose, he could not escape the fate of death. I need a lot of extraordinary food. Those orcs are quite good. You should understand what I mean, right? Simon said, his lips slightly parted. Goblin scratched his head, clearly not understanding Simon's words with his limited intelligence. Lord Black Dragon, do you mean you want us to capture orcs for you as food? Simon was somewhat helpless. These goblins were loyal, but unfortunately, they lacked intelligence and strength. The only one of value in the entire goblin tribe was Goblin, who possessed the strength of a first-tier transcendent being. Besides orcs, I also need the magical beasts in the forest. Defeating the Pigman tribe will provide enough food for you to go a year without hunting, and with the existence of the fishing grounds, the Lizardman tribe and the Goblin tribe will no longer experience food shortages. So, in your spare time, go to the forest to hunt magical beasts for me, and don't let any orcs escape. Simon was a very cautious person. He never put all his eggs in one basket. It's always good to have a backup plan. Just like the previous mission to recruit followers, Simon had already acquired the Goblin tribe but still recruited the Lizardman tribe. This time was no exception. Simon needed to prepare for the possibility of failing to advance to the Ancient 2 realm. Since the quality wasn't good, he would make up for it with quantity. A 5th-tier orc might grow to about 5 meters tall after consuming it. Having eaten over 20 2nd-tier extraordinary wild boars, he was no less effective than a 5th-tier orc. Unfortunately, the boarmen were too lazy, and with a limited number of fairy flowers, they couldn't cultivate more extraordinary wild boars. Yes, with Simon's order, Bray and Goblin each led their tribe's warriors out to hunt magical beasts. Simon, I've sown all the fairy flower seeds. With my abilities, they should sprout in a few days. Andy, having sown the seeds, excitedly flew to Simon. She wanted to know if Simon would imprison her like the boarmen. If so, Andy wouldn't dedicate herself to cultivating the fairy flowers. Thank you for your hard work. Simon nodded slightly, saying nothing more. Clearly, he had no intention of imprisoning Andy. As long as Andy completed her work, Simon didn't care what she did. Is that all? Andy was somewhat surprised. Previously, those pigmen would lock themselves in cages as soon as they knew their work was over, and would even beat them if they didn't work diligently. Simon raised an eyebrow at Andy's expression. Do you want a reward? But this is your job. Simon thought Andy had come to ask for a reward. However, he was penniless and couldn't give his subordinate any. It seemed establishing trade with humans was necessary. Or perhaps he should go to Lynn City again and steal some gold. But that was for later. Simon's current focus was on eliminating the orc tribe, advancing to the 7th rank, and devouring the Crimson Jade Serpent. Fine, I'm not such a stingy master. Considering you just arrived, I'll give you a reward today, Simon said, plucking a dragon scale from his body. This is a scale from my body, with good defensive properties. I'll give it to you. I hope you continue to work hard. Simon tossed the scale to Andy. Andy instinctively caught it. The petite Andy couldn't possibly withstand Simon's scale. Even the smallest scale on Simon's body was much larger than Andy's, given his current size. Andy was pinned to the ground by the dragon scales, staring blankly up at Simon. Simon seems different from the pigmen before. He didn't imprison me, and even gave me a reward. The dragon scales still carried Simon's warmth, making her heart flutter. At this moment, Andy secretly vowed to cultivate more and more vibrant fairy flowers for Simon. In fact, as a flower fairy born of heaven and earth, Andy had always held back. Otherwise, the fairy flowers she cultivated would never have been only first tier. Now, because of Simon's small gesture, Andy decided to use all her strength to cultivate even higher level fairy flowers for Simon. In the magic crystal forest, a black wolf, covered in wounds, fled in a sorry state. Behind the black wolf, several burly orcs charged menacingly. One of the orcs quickened his pace, leaped, and smashed his wooden club down on the black wolf's head. The black wolf howled and fell to the ground. Just as the orcs were preparing to return to their tribe with their prey, the surrounding grass rustled. 7 or 8 lizardmen emerged. Put down this black wolf, let me go first. The orcs immediately gripped their weapons warily. Bray, we have no grudge against you lizardmen, what are you planning to do? The orc who had killed the black wolf said sternly. Hearing this, Bray and the other lizardmen were immediately enraged, their faces flushed with anger. HMPH. Your orc tribe attacked my lizardman tribe before, killing so many of our brethren, and now you dare say we have no grudge? The orc who had spoken earlier retorted awkwardly, you also killed our orc brethren, so we're even. However, such words did not appease the lizardmen. They had the advantage in numbers and surrounded the orcs. The orcs realized the danger and shouted, Bray, don't think the lizardman tribe can do whatever they want just because they have the black dragon's protection. Our orc tribe also has a powerful apostle protecting us. If you really push us too far, we're not even afraid of the black dragon. Bray frowned upon hearing this. In his limited understanding, he found it hard to imagine any creature that could stand against a powerful dragon. What is an apostle? Bray asked. The orc replied smugly. An apostle of the gods, of course. Our orc tribe has worshipped the blood cry god. It's because of the blood cry god's blessings that we have so many extraordinary warriors. The other orcs exchanged glances. Their leader, Guer, had strictly forbidden them from telling outsiders about this. However, their lives were now threatened. Revealing the tribe's secret might make Bray hesitant to act, and perhaps they could survive. Go back and tell the Black Dragon Lord about this, Bray ordered his weakest warrior to report. The warrior left quickly and returned just as fast, his eyes filled with excitement. Lord Black Dragon said, don't even mention that it's just an apostle. I'm not afraid even if a god himself descends. Kill all those orcs. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 30 meters. As expected of Lord Black Dragon, wow, truly domineering and majestic, Bray exclaimed with admiration. The orc's expressions turned ashen upon hearing the lizardman's words. If we die, the apostle will not let you off, the orcs struggled desperately. HMPH, words are useless, kill these orcs. Bray waved his hand, and 7 or 8 lizardman warriors simultaneously pounced on the orcs. These orcs were all first-tier extraordinary warriors, but there were only 4 of them, no match for the lizardman warrior squad led by Bray. After a few rounds of fighting, all the orcs fell. Bray flicked his machete, shaking off the blood. Take these orc corpses and this wolf back. Lord Black Dragon needs a lot of food. Didn't we have plenty of food after we wiped out the pigman tribe? Why does Lord Black Dragon still need us to go hunting? A lizardman asked, puzzled. Bray shook his head. What Lord Black Dragon is doing is beyond our comprehension. Perhaps he prefers fresh flesh and blood. The lizardmen began carrying the corpses back to the tribe, chatting idly along the way. By the way, have you noticed that Lord Black Dragon has gotten much bigger, eh? You think so too? I thought I was mistaken. I've noticed that Lord Black Dragon gets bigger after each meal, especially this noon, after he ate all the extraordinary wild boars, he grew even bigger. Lord Black Dragon is truly powerful. In the following days, Simon had the lizardmen and goblins constantly hunt down orcs. Any orc that went out hunting was attacked. The lizardmen were stronger and brought back many orcs. The goblins were weaker, because the male orcs had been transformed into extraordinary warriors by the Crimson Jade Serpent, so it usually took a large number of goblins to kill a single orc. In terms of the number of orcs killed, the goblins lagged far behind the lizardman tribe. Simon was fully aware of the situation, but said nothing. He hadn't expected the goblins to do much anyway. Consumed a tier 1 orc, size plus 0.11 meters, consumed a tier 1 orc, size plus 0.09 meters, consumed a large number of tier 1 orcs, size plus 1.7 meters. Simon's body creaked, his bones grew, and his blood surged. After consuming all the orcs his followers had killed these past few days, Simon's size increased again. Phew, finally broke through to 30 meters. Simon opened the system, glanced at his attribute panel, and expressed great satisfaction. Name, Simon. Level, tier 6, size 30.35 meters, skills, feast, roar of the fire dragon, ancient dragon thunder spear, pressure. Simon's current size surpassed that of most adult dragons. Ordinary dragons are generally around 25 meters tall. Larger ones, like red dragons, can reach 30 meters, while smaller ones are just over 20 meters. Of course, Simon still couldn't compare to other adult dragons in terms of strength. After all, they relied on long years to grow and learn many powerful spells. Dragons typically reach 8th, 9th, or even legendary strength upon reaching adulthood. Simon, however, relied on the feast skill to accelerate his growth, but his overall strength still couldn't match that of other adult dragons. The orc tribe should have already begun preparing offerings for a new round of blood sacrifice rituals. They need to collect a large amount of flesh and blood to supply the Crimson Jade Serpent, thereby gaining feedback on their increased strength. If they don't collect enough offerings, that serpent probably won't easily forgive the orcs. My actions are tantamount to cutting off their escape route. To avoid punishment from the serpent and to improve their strength, the orcs will still try to go out hunting. Simon's mind raced, his thoughts racing as he rapidly considered the orc tribe's possible reactions. They can't continue to act alone. Every time they go hunting, they inevitably gather a large number of orcs, and my followers are still too weak. They are no match for Gur, who has the strength of a 4th tier being, but I can't directly attack. Once I'm exposed to Gur, my 6th tier strength will be on full display. Under immense pressure, Gur will definitely become afraid, and my plan will fail. So, how can I make these weak followers put pressure on Gur? Simon fell into deep thought. Simon, I've finished my work for today. Under my careful care, the fairy flowers have already sprouted. They should be ripe in a little over a month. And I'll give you a surprise then. The little elf Andy suddenly flew in front of Simon and said. Simon seemed not to hear. Simon. Simon. I'm talking to you. Andy put her hands on her hips and called out twice in dissatisfaction, which finally brought Simon back to his senses. What do you want, you fearless little elf? Simon was a little annoyed at being interrupted. Andy wasn't going to put up with Simon. Even though she was now his follower, she wasn't afraid at all. I said, I've finished my work for today, and the fairy flowers will be ripe in about a month. Andy put her hands to her lips, making a megaphone shape, and shouted loudly. Simon simply nodded, his attitude indifferent. Because after these fairy flowers matured, their seeds would be used to cultivate more fairy flowers, so Simon wouldn't touch these flowers in the short term, and naturally wouldn't pay much attention to them. Seeing Simon's indifferent appearance, Andy felt a little disappointed. She thought Simon would be very happy to praise her after hearing this good news. In that case, I'll have to use my trump card. Simon, actually, I've also cultivated a fairy flower king, and once the flower king matures, it will have the strength of a 3rd tier fairy flower. Andy put her hands on her hips, beaming with pride. Simon pondered for a moment. King of flowers. King, to catch the thief, catch the king first. No, the lizardmen and goblins can't beat Gur, but that doesn't mean they can't beat the other orcs. The orc tribes aren't all superhuman warriors, There are also ordinary female orcs and young orcs. Since the pressure isn't enough, let's add some spice, like anger. A plan quickly took shape in Simon's mind. A diversionary tactic. Send the lizardmen to lure Guar and the orc warriors away, then have the goblins lead a charge into the defenseless orc stronghold. When Guar returns to the tribe, all he'll see are orc corpses everywhere. The hatred and rage from the massacre of his people will surely help Guar improve. If that still doesn't work, well, then Guar has no reason to live. Simon, already 30 meters tall, can still break through to the 7th rank by devouring a 4th-tier orc and the rest of the 1st-tier orcs. Chapter 56. As expected of Lord Black Dragon. If Simon's plan fails this time, and Guar hasn't successfully advanced to the 5th rank, then Simon doesn't intend to wait any longer. His patience has long been exhausted by his desire to devour the Crimson Serpent. Simon, are you even listening to me? Andy, seeing Simon lose focus while speaking to him, stomped his feet twice in anger. Simon snapped out of his daze, ignoring the bouncing sprite in front of him. Bray, Goblin, come here. We need to revise our strategy for dealing with the orc tribe. Simon summoned Bray and Goblin. Abby, the old chieftain of the Lizardman tribe, was extremely anxious upon seeing this. Simon's prestige among the Lizardmen was growing. The Lizardmen worshipped Simon more and more. Although these Lizardmen would still obey his orders, he couldn't stand against Simon on matters of principle. Like this time, Simon was going to start a war with the orc tribe. He couldn't possibly disobey Simon. The last orc attack on the Lizardman tribe killed many Lizardmen. That's why so many Lizardmen in the tribe hate the orcs. If Abby were to stand up against the war, not only would Simon slap her to death, but the Lizardmen in the tribe would never agree. If this continued, the Lizardmen's loyalty to Simon would only increase, and he, as the tribal chief, would gradually become a figurehead, powerless. Lord Black Dragon, are you calling us to launch a general offensive against the orc tribe? Bray approached, eager to ask Simon. He vividly remembered Simon's display of power against the Pigman tribe. Bray admired strength and had immense respect for a strong man like Simon. If Simon personally intervened, the orc tribe would be annihilated like the Pigman. No, you will still do it. Simon shook his head. Seeing Goblin approach, Simon asked, Goblin, how's your strength progressing lately? How is the Goblin defense team's training going? Have any Goblins become extraordinary warriors? Goblin's face stiffened at the question. Black Dragon Lord, my current strength is still at the peak of the 1st tier. No extraordinary warriors have yet appeared among the members of the Goblin defense team. Goblin spoke without daring to meet Simon's gaze. Back then, the old Goblin used a secret technique, consuming the life force of a 3rd-tier Goblin wizard to help Goblin advance to the extraordinary level and increase his strength. He just hadn't expected that after so many days, he would still only be at the peak of the 1st tier. Actually, it wasn't entirely incomprehensible. Goblins with talent would have already advanced to the extraordinary level, becoming either Goblin warriors, Goblin wizards, Goblin priests. The fact that the Goblin tribe in the Magic Crystal Forest only had one wizard before this was enough to show that these Goblins didn't have that kind of talent. Peak of the 1st tier, Bray? You can mentor Goblins sometimes. If he breaks through to the 2nd tier, he'll owe you a favor. If you need anything in the future, you can ask Goblin for help. As his master, Simon didn't mind helping his follower who was stuck at a bottleneck. It was a pity that his growth path was different from that of Goblin and Bray, these extraordinary warriors. Otherwise, he could train new recruits and perhaps even create a batch of extraordinary warriors. Thank you, Lord Black Dragon. Goblin immediately expressed his gratitude. Simon didn't take it to heart. This mainly depends on whether Bray is willing or not. Bray's eyes darted around, and he thought to himself, now both the Lizardman tribe and the Goblin tribe are working under Lord Black Dragon, so there will inevitably be contact between them. The old chieftain tried to improve relations between the two sides before, and this is an excellent opportunity. Moreover, I've also reached the bottleneck of the peak of the 3rd tier and haven't been able to break through to the 4th tier. Perhaps I can gain some insights while teaching Goblin and break through to the 4th tier. Thinking this, Bray agreed. No problem, Goblin, I'll guide you through breaking through to the 2nd tier. Simon nodded in satisfaction at the harmonious relationship between his subordinates. Next, let's talk about dealing with the orc tribe. Simon then told Bray and Goblin about his plan to lure them away from their prey. Bray and Goblin exchanged a glance, both seeing shock and admiration in each other's eyes. As expected of Lord Black Dragon, this will surely infuriate Gur, Bray smiled, touching the scar on his chest. As expected of Lord Black Dragon, Goblin, unsure how to describe Simon's greatness, gave a stiff compliment. Simon, you even came up with such a scheme, truly a cunning dragon. Andy, who hadn't left yet, exclaimed in surprise. Hearing their words, Simon was speechless, immediately rolling his eyes inwardly. These three guys, one of them was a native lizardman, relying entirely on brute force in battle. One was a goblin, intellectually challenged. If he hadn't become a superhuman warrior, he wouldn't even have brute strength in a fight, relying solely on numbers to overwhelm the weak. The other was a simple elf, innocent and naive, in other words, lacking any cunning or scheming, otherwise, he wouldn't have been imprisoned by the pigmen for 10 years. Simon wasn't happy at all by these three's praise. Alright, stop flattering me. We're going to move out tonight when it gets dark. The three scratched their heads, muttering unconsciously, shouldn't we be flattering the dragon? By the way, Bray, you and the lizardman need to be careful when you're luring Ancient 2 and the Orc warriors. Ancient 2 is now a high-level 4th-tier superhuman warrior. His strength is different from before. That night, the sun set, and the full moon rose high. The sky was clear and cloudless. The brilliant moonlight and starlight illuminated the earth, lighting up the magic crystal forest. Swish, swish, swish in the forest, a large number of lizardman warriors, carrying torches, ostentatiously entered the Orc tribe's territory. Bray, how dare you come to my Orc tribe in the middle of the night? Unlike the Pigman tribe, the Orc tribe had always focused on defense, so they discovered the arrival of Bray and his lizardmen immediately. Gur immediately summoned the tribe's warriors. Enough nonsense, I'm here today to wipe out your Orc tribe. Bray, wielding a machete, charged at Gur without saying a word. Gur, wielding an axe in both hands, did not back down. His body trembled, and the aura of a high-level 4th rank erupted. How is this possible? You've actually broken through to the 4th rank, and at a high-level 4th rank at that. Bray was dumbfounded. Brothers, retreat. Gur laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, Bray, do you think you can come and go as you please with my Orc tribe? Brothers, follow me and pursue him. Kill Bray. One tier 3 transcendent warrior is worth 30 ferocious beast sacrifices. Chapter 57 Operation begins. Don't let Bray escape. A 3rd tier extraordinary warrior is worth 1/10 of a sacrifice. Gur, wielding his great axe, launched the attack. The Orcs behind him also quickly joined the fray. Their warriors had been attacked and many had died in recent days. Furthermore, Bray's advance was overwhelming, practically bringing all the lizardman warriors with him. Faced with such a large number of lizardmen, Gur didn't hesitate and rallied all the Orcs to give chase. In the forest, the lizardmen fled, and the Orcs pursued. Although Gur's strength was somewhat exaggerated, his 4th tier cultivation level still gave him a speed advantage. Bray, you'll die here today, Gur shouted, rapidly closing in, his sharp axe slashing at the nearest lizardman. Bray, desperate and unwilling to see his companion die, turned and lunged at Gur. Sensing the high-level 4th tier aura emanating from Gur, Bray dared not be careless and attacked with all his might. Whirlwind slash, Bray's cleaver flashed, unleashing a storm of attacks. A blade of light flashed, but Gur showed no fear, only a mocking expression. Not long ago, my strength was inferior to yours, I could barely withstand your attacks. But today, I've surpassed you. Watch me shatter your trump card in one move. Gur took a deep breath, gripping the handle tightly. Behold my life-severing slash. He swung his axe down with immense force, the shockwave annihilating all the blade of light. Seeing this, Bray was stunned. Based on his many encounters with Gur, the latter was clearly using his full strength. However, a full force attack from a high-level 4th rank was only equal to his own full force attack from a peak 3rd rank. Gur's strength seemed much weaker than he had imagined, not as terrifying as he thought. Again, Bray decided to test Gur's strength again, so he unleashed the Gale Slash once more, unleashing a barrage of blade of light. Even if you come 100 times, it won't matter, Bray. Your strength is no longer as great as mine, Gur arrogantly retorted, also unleashing the life-severing slash, the shockwave annihilating the blade of light. Bray finally realized how much of Gur's supposed 4th tier advanced strength was inflated. It was like comparing cotton candy to iron. Cotton candy, though larger than iron of the same weight, has less density. Gur's strength had been forcibly boosted, making his foundation far less solid than Bray's, who had honed his skills step by step. "Don't get cocky, you're nothing special," Bray said, launching an attack. Guar retaliated. The two were locked in combat. Seeing their leaders fighting, the warriors on both sides also joined the fray. Bray gradually became engrossed in the battle, but he didn't forget his plan. While fighting Guar, he dragged him away from the orc tribe. At this very moment, near the orc tribe, the goblin army, which had been lying in wait for a long time, emerged. Goblins are creatures that reproduce extremely quickly. In just a few days, their numbers had doubled from the original 20-odd. Some of the younger goblins had even reached adulthood, wielding weapons and becoming warriors. "Kill all these orcs, don't let a single one escape," the goblin grinned menacingly. War was cruel, the lives of ordinary people were worthless, like livestock. Only capital could profit from war, and Simon was the mastermind behind it all. "Why, kill all these orcs. Kill the men. Take the women back to have goblin babies," a goblin said lewdly, holding a small stone knife. Under the cover of night, and taking advantage of their small size and agility, they charged into the tribe. A female orc immediately spotted them. Enemy attack. Her shout triggered the alarm, rousing the orcs to their senses. However, all the tribe's warriors had gone out to pursue the lizardmen, leaving only the elderly, children, and female orcs behind. These female orcs, while not superhuman warriors, were still quite strong, certainly beyond the reach of the goblins. One of them possessed incredible strength, capable of smashing a goblin's head with a single punch. Unfortunately, the goblins were numerous and overwhelming. The incredibly strong female orc had barely killed one goblin when 7 or 8 more pounced on her, attacking her legs. Sharp daggers pierced her thighs, and the orc fell to the ground, her eyes immediately drawn to the goblin's ugly and ferocious expressions. "Stop. You damned goblins," an elderly orc stepped forward. "It's the old chieftain. He's said to be a first-tier extraordinary warrior." "Great. Old chieftain, quickly kill all these goblins. We're saved. We're saved." Thank goodness the old chieftain didn't chase the lizardmen with the warriors earlier. Seeing the elderly orc step forward, the remaining orcs felt a surge of relief, as if they had escaped death. The elderly orc removed his leather upper garment, revealing a muscular physique. As the orc elder gathered his strength, his muscles bulged, making him grow to a towering 2 meters tall, resembling a small mountain. However, the next second, a spear ripped through space, piercing the elder's chest. "What's that old guy yelling about? So noisy?" Goblin stepped forward and retrieved the spear. This afternoon, Bray had specifically instructed him in combat techniques. Goblin's strength had increased significantly, and breaking through to the second tier was only a matter of time. With the elder's death, the orcs beneath him panicked. The slaughter began. Raging flames burned within the orc tribe, corpses littering the ground. Countless orcs, old and young, lay dead, blood flowing like rivers. The orc troops still fighting the lizardmen in the distance quickly noticed the commotion within the tribe. "Oh no, Chief, our tribe is under attack." An orc who spotted the smoke couldn't help but shout. "What?" Guar paused, unleashing his full power to kick Bray away. Turning his head, he saw, sure enough, a plume of black smoke shooting straight into the sky. "Quick, we have to get back," Guar shouted angrily. Ignoring the lizardmen, he led his orc troops and raced towards the tribe. A lizardman tried to stop him, but Bray stopped him with a gesture. The goblins should have succeeded. This isn't a job anymore. When Guar and his orcs returned to the tribe, they found only devastation. The sight of orc corpses scattered everywhere filled Guar and his men with a profound sense of desolation. "Is anyone still alive? Lisa, Marlene?" Some orcs began calling out the names of their families, but received no response. The flames reflected in the eyes of many orcs, turning into burning hatred. Guar took a deep breath and roared, "Black Dragon, you killed my people, destroyed my tribe. This is an irreconcilable hatred." Chapter 58. Even an ant can try to shake a tree. A new moon was rising slowly. Its pure white light illuminated the entire forest. In the forest, a colossal dragon stood atop the mountain peak where the flowers sprouted. It looked up at the moon, its eyes flashing with ferocity. Its expression was as cold as snow and as icy as frost. Today, regardless of whether the plan succeeds or fails, it will be the day the orc tribe is destroyed. A powerful killing intent erupted from Simon. Andy, who was tending to the flowers, crouched on the ground, trembling. This wasn't psychological fear, but a primal instinct. Whoosh! Simon spread his wings, his enormous dragon wings almost covering the entire mountain top. Simon's size had already exceeded 30 meters. With his wings fully extended, it would approach 100 meters. The power of those sky-covering wings was unimaginable. Looking into the distance, a plume of smoke shot straight into the sky from the forest. Simon narrowed his eyes slightly. With his eyesight, he could see clearly what was happening 100 meters away. Although Simon couldn't see the orc tribe, he could see several lizardmen approaching. The lizardmen are back. Does that mean the plan succeeded? Simon's thoughts stirred, and his large dragon wings began to flap, whipping up a gale. I'm going to be blown away. Andy clung tightly to fairy flower seedling, terrified of being blown away by the gale Simon had created before taking flight. Otherwise, she, a dignified flower fairy, would lose all face. Fortunately, the gale didn't last long. Simon leaped off the mountain. The strength to support such a massive body was unimaginable. With a simple jump, Simon covered dozens of meters. In the air, he flapped his wings powerfully, soaring into the sky, heading straight towards the orc tribe. Using the cover of night, Simon flew swiftly through the air, arriving above the orc tribe in no time. Simon looked down from his vantage point. The orcs had just returned to their tribe, still grieving the deaths of their people, and hadn't yet noticed Simon. Gur roared, shouting angrily, "Black Dragon, you killed my people, destroyed my tribe. This is an irreconcilable hatred." Simon, in the air, heard this and instead of being angry, laughed. Be angry, hate, and then turn all of this into your motivation to break through to the 5th rank. Simon stared at Gur hopefully. Simon's voice was like that of the wicked witch tempting Snow White to eat the poison apple. Although the beastmen didn't hear it, a raging fire burned in their hearts. Hatred and anger spread through their hearts, making their eyes bloodshot, and their violent aura was clearly visible. One beastman suddenly shouted, his aura exploding. Under the influence of anger and hatred, this beastman successfully broke through from the 1st rank to the 2nd rank. The other beastmen did the same, breaking through their strength one after another. It was clear how intense their anger was. Very good, very good. Simon was overjoyed, nodding repeatedly in satisfaction. Finally, he fixed his gaze on Gur. As our leader, Gur, don't disappoint me. Simon stared intently at Gur, his gaze burning with greed. A minute passed. 2 minutes passed. Simon raised an eyebrow. What's going on? Why hasn't Gur broken through yet? Gur, lying on the ground, wasn't just standing there in a daze. He was actively engaged in saving the tribe. His aura was stable, showing no signs of breakthrough. Simon grew increasingly disheartened. Damn it. This damned Gur is a complete waste. All his people have been killed, and he still can't break through to the 5th rank. Simon roared in fury. He no longer concealed his presence and plummeted into the orc tribe. Boom! The ground cracked, sand flew, and a deafening roar echoed, symbolizing the arrival of a powerful figure, the earth responding. Black Dragon, Gur and the other orcs' eyes widened in fury. HMPH, Gur, you really are a piece of trash. Simon made no attempt to hide his emotions, cursing Gur. His wings folded, and his dragon might spread. The aura of a 6th rank was clearly visible. The orcs were even more astonished, but anger quickly filled their minds, banishing all other emotions. Even the pressure of a powerful figure had no effect on them. Gur's face was contorted with rage as he roared at Simon. Black Dragon, our orc tribe has never provoked you. We even deliberately avoided your territory, yet you sent men to annihilate our orc tribe. The orcs had always sought to accomplish the feat of slaying a dragon, but they had indeed never provoked Simon. At this moment, goblins and lizardmen arrived. Bray was the first to mock. The barking of the weak sounds quite pleasant. Goblin was also smug. HMPH, Gur, you slaughtered my goblin tribe before, killing hundreds of goblins. Today I will slaughter you orcs. Upon hearing this, the orcs immediately turned their gazes towards Goblin. Their eyes were filled with hatred, wishing they could tear Goblin to pieces. So it was you filthy goblins who did it. You goblins deserve to die, the orcs roared in fury. Goblin, however, remained completely fearless. Just kidding, with Lord Black Dragon backing me up, what are a bunch of lowly orcs? I'm Lord Black Dragon's follower now, and I'm proud of that. Goblins, you dared to kill Marlene. I'll kill you all, an orc roared, weapon in hand, charging at the goblins. But the next second, he felt himself lifted off the ground and launched into the air. Looking up, he saw Simon had grabbed him. Your leader's inability to break through to the 5th rank is very disappointing, but thankfully, you orcs are quite good. Many have broken through, which has somewhat eased my anger, Simon said, then tossed the orc into his mouth. Now, I'm hungry. You'll have to fill my belly to quell my rage. Consuming a second-tier orc, size plus 0.3 meters, seeing their companion die before their eyes, the remaining orcs were even more enraged. We can't escape anyway, let's fight this dragon to the death. Even if we die, we'll tear a piece of flesh from it. That's right, at least we'll tear a piece of flesh from the dragon. The orcs, filled with rage and fearless, charged towards Simon. HMPH, overestimating yourselves, mere ants trying to shake a tree. Simon sneered, took a deep breath, and his lungs suddenly bulged. Flames leaped from between his lips. Roar of the fire dragon, roar, the gaping maw opened, and scorching flames erupted, distorting the air. The firelight illuminated the entire tribe, and the temperature soared. When the flames dissipated, most of the orcs were dead. The air was filled with the smell of roasting meat. Ha, ha ha ha, is this the power of a dragon? Gur laughed. He laughed maniacally, like a madman. A snake-shaped sculpture had appeared in his hand at some point. My Lord Apostle, I am willing to sacrifice the lives of all the orcs of the orc tribe to beg you to kill this evil dragon. Chapter 59 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river, don't underestimate Sheolong's poverty. My Lord Apostle, I beg you to kill this evil dragon, even at the cost of the lives of all the orcs of the orc tribe. A small, palm-sized snake sculpture appeared in Gur's hand. He slashed his palm, letting the blood flow onto the sculpture. A red light flashed in the snake sculpture's eyes. The entire sculpture seemed to be stained red with blood, radiating an eerie glow. Not good, that guy wants to summon the Crimson Jade Serpent. I'm probably no match for him now, Simon thought to himself, realizing the danger, and immediately sprang into action. He rushed forward and bit down on Gur. Sharp dragon fangs easily pierced Gur's flesh, devouring a 4th-tier orc, size plus 2.1 meters. Gur's flesh and blood became nutrients, nourishing Simon. However, the increase in size was not significant. With his size increasing, Simon felt he wasn't far from breaking through. But with a formidable enemy at hand, there was no time for him to slowly develop. A strange sensation arose within his body, as if something was constantly expanding. The system didn't send any notification, so the snake really isn't dead, Simon realized. Letting that thing keep growing inside me will probably kill me. I have to spit it out. Simon reached into his mouth and immediately started gagging. The smell of blood filled the air. With a gurgling sound, a 7 or 8 meter long snake was vomited out. That was quite unexpected for the snake. I thought it would just burst. The snake flicked its tongue, staring straight up at Simon. As it spoke, the snake's size continued to grow. Simon's eyes narrowed, but he didn't reply. The snake's aura was still unstable and was gradually increasing. Taking advantage of the snake's instability before its aura reached its peak, Simon decisively attacked with all his might. He raised his right hand high, and red lightning crackled around it. A lightning spear materialized out of thin air. The spear stood tall and imposing, radiating a terrifying aura. Crimson lightning flashed continuously, making it impossible to look directly at it. Ancient dragon lightning spear, Simon shouted, thrusting the red lightning in his hand at the snake. The giant serpent remained calm. Although its aura hadn't fully recovered, it didn't mean its strength had diminished. Facing Simon's attack, the serpent opened its mouth and spat out a cloud of blood mist. The blood mist rapidly condensed in the air, forming a shield, its color dull, like dried blood scabs. Bang! The lightning spear struck the blood mist shield, producing a deafening roar. The ancient dragon lightning spear exploded, unleashing a shockwave of incredible power. The shield could no longer withstand it and shattered. Seeing this, the giant serpent was slightly surprised. As expected of the dragon, its strength is indeed formidable. To be able to destroy my blood scab shield with only 6th tier power, the serpent's aura was fully revealed. Transcendent 8th tier. As expected, it's at the 8th rank, not far from my guess. With my current strength, my full-force ancient dragon thunder spear attack is comparable to a full-force strike from an ordinary 8th rank transcendent creature, but it can only break through one shield. Simon's expression grew increasingly grave, confirming a fact. This giant serpent not only possesses the strength of an 8th rank transcendent, but its combat power is also extraordinary, capable of fighting across ranks. Possessing the combat strength of a 9th rank transcendent, Realizing this, Simon rapidly considered countermeasures. His final conclusion was, fortune changes every 30 years, don't underestimate a young dragon's potential. I'm running away. Without hesitation, Simon turned and leaped into the sky, simultaneously spreading his wings rapidly, attempting to soar into the heavens. That damned waste, Goer. If he could successfully break through to the 5th rank, I might be able to break through to the 7th rank by eating him, and then I'd have a fighting chance against this serpent with the combat power of a 9th rank extraordinary being. Right now, I'm only at the 6th rank. Although my combat power is comparable to that of an ordinary 8th rank extraordinary being, it's still too much of a stretch against this serpent. With my abilities, I can simply survive and develop, and then come back for revenge and wipe away my shame, he muttered to himself. Simon spread his dragon wings and flew into the sky. This scene left his followers speechless. In their minds, the invincible Black Dragon Lord had actually escaped. But before Simon could fly far, he suddenly felt his tail get heavy. Turning his head, he saw that the serpent was using its own tail to pull his own tail. I was planning to let you go, Black Dragon, but you actually delivered yourself to my door. There's no reason to let a duck that's already in my mouth fly away. After saying that, the serpent pulled hard. Get down here. Simon felt a tremendous force pull him down, slamming him to the ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. Simon adjusted his posture, baring his teeth and glaring fiercely at the giant snake before him. The snake had now returned to its original size, over 10 meters long and incredibly thick. You forced me to do this. I didn't want to use this move. Using it would instantly boost my strength by several levels, but the side effects are severe, equivalent to killing 1,000 enemies while losing 800 of my own. I only use it as a last resort, but now it's all your own fault. Simon's face was contorted with rage, his expression menacing. The giant snake immediately became alert. Judging from its size, Simon was undoubtedly a fully grown dragon. Among dragons, many learn various magics and secret arts from their bloodline. Many of these are techniques that unleash powerful attacks. Although the giant snake surpassed Simon in strength, it dared not be careless. After all, this was a black dragon, a creature from legend. Even the giant serpent hadn't seen this many times. Die. Just as the giant serpent was fully focused on defense, Simon lunged in another direction. That was where the orcs were. Many orcs had been burned to death by Simon's breath earlier. Simon grabbed several orcs, threw them directly into his mouth, and swallowed them whole without even chewing, eating a tier 2 orc, size plus 0.3 meters, eating a tier 3 orc, size plus 1.2 meters, eating a tier 2 orc, size plus 0.4 meters, the 3 orcs Simon ate, increasing his size. Huh? You can actually grow stronger by devouring. Simon's changes naturally didn't escape the giant serpent's notice. I understand, you want to eat these orcs and then break through to tier 7, right? The giant serpent's eyes darted around, immediately understanding Simon's plan. You're cunning enough. I was genuinely intimidated by you before, but these orcs have already signed a pact with me. You can't take them from me. With that, the giant serpent opened its blood-red maw, unleashing a terrifying suction force. Bang, bang, bang. The remaining orcs' bodies suddenly exploded, turning into a pool of blood mist, which was then sucked into the serpent's body. Simon's face was grim. Damn it, just a little bit more and I could have broken through to the 7th rank. I'm a bit tired today, so only one update. Chapter 60, 6th rank battle against 8th rank. Burp. The giant serpent devoured the remaining orcs in one gulp, letting out a satisfied burp. Simon's face was ashen, extremely ugly. His size had already reached 34 meters, just one step away from the 35 meters required for the 7th rank, but unfortunately, the remaining orcs had all been eaten by the giant serpent. Simon's mind raced. There were now 2 ways to break the deadlock. One was to eat Bray, Goblin, and their followers. Bray was a genuine peak 3rd rank extraordinary being. Eating him would definitely increase his size no less than the inflated size of the Ancient 2. The goblins were also loyal. Although their quality was poor, their numbers were plentiful. As loyal followers, it was reasonable for them to sacrifice themselves for their master at a crucial moment. However, doing so would mean the failure of the mission to unify the magic crystal forest. That was a full 2 chances to draw a lottery. Perhaps they could even draw skill like Feast, that could grow infinitely. Besides that, there was another method. That was during the fight with a giant serpent, he bit off a piece of flesh from its body. A powerful being at the 8th level of the extraordinary realm, possessing the combat strength of the 9th level, his flesh must be incredibly delicious. Thinking of this, Simon couldn't help but lick his lips. At this moment, the system notified him that your appetite has been suppressed for a long time. Now, with such a delicious meal before you, you can no longer restrain yourself. Please devour the serpent apostle of the blood god mission reward, lottery draw +1. The system notification indicated that Simon had triggered the mission again. This was originally an opportunity to become stronger, but Simon's expression changed drastically. In a magical world, there are goblins, lizardmen, and dragons, so it's normal for there to be gods. Simon hadn't expected that the blood-red jade serpent before him was actually an apostle of a god. No wonder a snake could fight beyond its level. Tisk tisk, are you trying to take advantage of your followers? Well, I have the same idea. The serpent apostle slithered quickly, leaving crawling tracks on the ground. The followers were all stunned by the aura of the serpent apostle, frozen in place. The serpent apostle opened its jaws, intending to devour the followers. Fortunately, at the crucial moment, a large hand firmly held the serpent apostle down. Get out of here, don't hold me back. Simon used all his strength to press down the serpent apostle, managing to say this to the followers in a moment. The followers reacted and hurriedly fled in panic. Apostle of the gods, messenger of the gods, humph, I will slay a god today, Simon roared, lowering his head to bite the serpent apostle. The serpent apostle, of course, wouldn't sit idly by. With a whoosh, Simon's head was deflected and he was sent flying. Slay a god? A mere 6-tier black dragon. With a boastful tone, the serpent apostle was also enraged by Simon's arrogant words. The followers who were leaving, having overheard the conversation between the serpent apostle and Simon, were also shocked. I never imagined this giant serpent was an apostle of the gods. Lord Black Dragon will surely win. I also believe Lord Black Dragon will win, but let's leave here quickly and not become a burden to Lord Black Dragon. The followers quickly departed. Simon got up from the ground and took a deep breath. Just as he was about to move, the serpent apostle had already climbed onto him. The serpent apostle tightly coiled around Simon's body, seemingly intending to strangle him. However, Simon was no pushover. With a grab of his hands, he pulled the serpent apostle off his body and slammed it heavily to the ground. Then, it opened its huge mouth and bit down again. The serpent apostle used the same trick, whipping Simon's head away with its tail, and then opened its mouth and bit down on Simon's arm, tearing off a large chunk of flesh. Blood gushed out. So this is dragon meat, indeed delicious, the serpent apostle laughed gleefully. Simon cried out in pain. Looking down, he saw a large chunk of flesh missing from his arm, deep enough to expose the bone, and blood flowing freely. Roar! Simon roared angrily and swung his palm. Despite its enormous size, the serpent apostle was surprisingly agile. With a twist of its body, it easily dodged Simon's attack, then lashed out with its tail, striking Simon squarely. The force was immense, and Simon felt as if his bones were about to shatter. Even though both were capable of fighting beyond their level, the gap between a 6th tier and an 8th tier transcendent was still too vast. The two engaged in hand-to-hand combat, the earth trembling with the force. The serpent apostle coiled around Simon, its jaws snapping and tearing at him. The latter screamed in pain, struggling desperately. Fortunately, Simon was a dragon, possessing immense strength. Before being strangled, he managed to throw the serpent apostle away. In this round, Simon was again at a disadvantage. His body was covered in bite marks, a bloody mess. Even his wings were tattered and mangled. Huff, huff, both Simon and the serpent apostle began to pant heavily. Suddenly, the serpent apostle realized something and stared at Simon in disbelief. Your flesh is poisoned. Simon's lips curled into a smile, deliberately saying, you only just realized? Isn't it a bit too late? Now, during the battle, the serpent apostle would definitely be more cautious, not daring to recklessly gnaw at Simon's flesh, thus alleviating the latter's injuries. The serpent apostle's expression was awkward. My stamina consumption rate is too abnormal. I didn't notice it at first, but as the battle progressed, my stamina was being consumed faster and faster, almost twice as fast as usual. The serpent apostle looked up at Simon and suddenly felt that the other's figure had become even taller. His heart began to pound wildly. He, a god apostle who was clearly an 8th level transcendent being, possessing the power to fight against a 9th level transcendent being, was actually feeling a sense of oppression from a 6th level transcendent black dragon. That's really ruthless. actually poisoning his own flesh, the serpent apostle abandoned his previous disregard for Simon. You have great potential. Someone as ruthless as you to yourself, as long as you don't perish prematurely, your future is limitless. But unfortunately, you've met me. The serpent apostle arrogantly raised its chin. A flash of crimson light appeared in the serpent apostle's eyes, and then it raised its head and spat out a blood mist into the sky. The blood mist spread in the air, forming a barrier, like a large bowl covering the surroundings. Blood roar barrier. Within the barrier, the serpent apostle's aura was amplified again, becoming even more powerful. Simon's expression was serious, but he fearlessly launched an attack. He gripped his hand, and a crimson lightning spear materialized out of thin air. Ancient dragon lightning spear, Simon shouted, and the lightning spear plunged into the ground. Lightning flashed, sand and gravel flew, and a vast and powerful aura burst forth. Blood scab shield. The serpent apostle spat out blood mist again, condensing into a dark red blood scab shield to block the attack. Too many attack methods. As expected of an apostle of the gods, truly formidable, Simon's eyes flashed with ferocity as he lunged forward, using the blood scab shield to successfully break through and reach the serpent apostle. He then bit down hard on its opponent. Chapter 61. The situation reversed. Boom, 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 crimson lightning raged, completely blocking the dark blood scab shield, shattering it instantly. The moment the blood scab shield broke, a dragon's head burst forth. Die, Simon roared, his expression ferocious and terrifying, a gaping maw revealing blood-stained dragon fangs. He lunged at the serpent apostle. The serpent apostle reacted quickly. Although its vision had been obscured by the lightning and the blood scab shield, it still noticed Simon's movement immediately and reacted in time, leaning back to avoid Simon's bite. Simon swung its claws. Sharp dragon claws slashed across the serpent apostle's body, sparks flying as they touched its scales. This showed that the serpent apostle not only possessed outstanding offensive capabilities but also formidable defensive strength. Sizzle, enraged, the serpent apostle spat out a cloud of blood mist onto Simon. The blood mist clung to Simon like glue, impossible to remove. Moreover, this blood mist was highly corrosive, corroding Simon's scales, leaving his flesh a bloody mess. Ag! Simon roared in pain, unable to contain his fury. His eyes turned bloodshot from the intense agony, like a wild beast driven mad. He ignored the blood mist covering his body. He stood up, feet firmly on the ground, hands raised high. Red lightning flashed, and in the blink of an eye, the ancient dragon lightning spear took shape. That move again. Although its power is immense, comparable to an 8th tier transcendent attack, your strength is too weak, only 6th tier. How can you break through my 8th tier defense? The serpent apostle sneered inwardly, seeing Simon's descent into madness. Using the same tactic, the serpent apostle spat out blood mist again, condensing it into a blood scab shield in response to Simon's ancient dragon lightning spear. Bang! The blood scab shield used by the 8th tier serpent apostle was destroyed in one strike. But Simon's actions didn't stop. His right hand had just swung out the ancient dragon lightning spear to destroy the blood scab shield when his left hand was already raised high again, as if grasping at an angle. Whoosh! Lightning flashed, and the ancient dragon lightning spear condensed once more. Useless, useless. Such trivial tricks are useless against me. The serpent apostle's expression was contemptuous and disdainful. He spat out blood mist again, summoning the blood scab shield. As expected, the blood scab shield was destroyed by the ancient dragon lightning spear once more. The attacks of both sides cancel each other out. Simon's expression was cold, and he didn't say a word, only his hands kept moving. The ancient dragon lightning spear was continuously used, and red lightning flashed continuously in this space. The surrounding environment was severely damaged under the bombardment of the lightning. The original orc tribe had long been shattered. Under the bombardment of the lightning, it seemed that even the blood cry barrier was about to collapse. After dozens of rounds, the serpent apostle, who had been calm and composed, finally realized that something was wrong. Damn black dragon, why is your magic power so abundant? How can you use such powerful lightning attacks so many times in a row? The serpent apostle cursed inwardly. In fact, Simon didn't know how to use magic power at all. He hadn't inherited this power from his bloodline. To put it bluntly, he was just an intelligent dragon beast. All the skills used consume stamina, but Simon, with a size boost from the feast skill, has no shortage of stamina. Add to that the increased stamina consumption from the oppression skill. Given the relatively small difference in strength between the two, Simon's war of attrition is practically unassailable. No, I can't continue this stalemate with a black dragon. This guy's stamina and magic power are outrageous. A prolonged standoff will inevitably lead to defeat. I need to change tactics and launch an attack. The serpent apostle's eyes darted around. After neutralizing Simon's ancient dragon lightning spear, it immediately dodged, attempting to create distance. But this played right into Simon's hands. Simon immediately lunged, biting the serpent apostle's tail. This time, the serpent apostle couldn't dodge and was bitten. Let go. The serpent apostle turned and glared at Simon. How? Simon increased the pressure, his sharp teeth piercing flesh. Let go. The serpent apostle spat out a mist of blood. The blood mist corroded, causing Simon's face to contort in pain, but he still refused to release its grip. How? Simon gritted his teeth with all his might. With a snap, the serpent apostle's tail broke off. Amidst the serpent apostle's howl, Simon picked up the tail and tossed it into his mouth. Having devoured the tail of the 8th-tier serpent apostle of the blood god, size increased by 2.5 meters, but as the serpent apostle's tail entered his stomach, Simon immediately felt some kind of shackle within him break, power surged, and his aura exploded. Transcendent 7th tier. Roar, Simon roared, his dragon might overwhelming, his aura completely unrestrained. The serpent apostle noticed the change in Simon's aura, and his face immediately darkened. You actually ate my tail and broke through to the 7th tier. Your devouring ability seems to be even stronger than mine. I absolutely cannot let you live. The serpent apostle was shocked. Blood mist erupted. The blood mist condensed into a thick cloud. The serpent apostle's eyes narrowed, blood rains down, the blood cloud drifted above Simon, and a torrential rain began. Each drop of blood rain was like an arrow, landing on Simon's body, instantly piercing countless bloody holes. Simon's lungs bulged, spewing forth raging flames. Under the scorching heat, the blood rain instantly evaporated, even dispersing the thick, crimson clouds. The power has roughly doubled. Is this the difference between the 7th and 6th rank? Simon's lips curled into a smile. After advancing to the 7th rank, Simon's strength had increased by at least half. Ancient Dragon Thunder Spear, his right hand clenched, and red lightning flashed. The lightning raged, and the surrounding space seemed unable to withstand the power. Blood Scab Shield. The serpent apostle hurriedly activated his blood scab shield for defense. However, this time, against Simon who had broken through to the 7th rank, the blood scab shield was no longer effective. The terrifyingly powerful ancient dragon thunder spear shattered the blood scab shield with a single strike. The sharp spear tip pierced towards the serpent apostle. The serpent apostle's pupils constricted sharply. After all, he was a transcendent 8th rank expert. He reacted quickly, twisting to dodge the attack. HMPH, you think you can dodge it? Simon sneered, his movements undiminished. The mist spear plunging straight into the ground. Boom, the ancient dragon lightning spear erupted, unleashing a torrent of lightning that surged in all directions. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Its power was far greater than before. Struck by the lightning, the serpent apostle trembled violently, his scalp tingling. Huff, huff, Simon gasped for breath, hot white breath visibly billowing out. Even Simon had exhausted most of his strength by now. Yet, he smiled. Great serpent, the situation has reversed. You can neither block nor dodge my attacks. Today is your death day. Simon's eyes gleamed with intense excitement and greed. Just obediently give up struggling, become my nourishment, and become a cornerstone on my path to strength. Simon raised his right hand high, lightning crackling, and the ancient dragon lightning spear materialized at a visible speed. Under the influence of the oppression, the serpent apostle had even less stamina than Simon. Each attack consumed a large amount of stamina, and his magic power was now nearly depleted. If this continued, he might truly die at Simon's hands. Thinking this, the serpent apostle dared not hold back any longer and immediately unleashed his last trump card. Lord Blood Cry God, save me. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 The younger brother gets punished. Lord Blood Cry God, save me. Seeing the dire situation, the serpent apostle immediately sent out a distress signal. He shouted with his head tilted back. The blood cry barrier he had set up roared. Just as Simon's ancient dragon thunder spear was about to pierce the serpent apostle, the blood cry barrier condensed into a ball, and the surrounding bloody mist transformed into a pillar of light that enveloped the serpent apostle. The massive shockwave neutralized Simon's attack and even sent him flying. Within the pillar of light, the serpent apostle's aura rapidly changed. What's going on? This guy's aura has changed. From its original bloody evil, it's become somewhat mysterious, almost like a completely different person. Simon focused intently, staring intently at his opponent. The pillar of light quickly dissipated. The serpent apostle's appearance remained unchanged, but his eyes revealed a detached contempt, as if all things in the world were mere ants. Simon's muscles tensed. The opponent's strength hadn't changed, but the aura he exuded sent chills down Simon's spine. Serpent apostle, you were my first vanguard sent to the southern continent, but your performance has disappointed me greatly. You couldn't even defeat a mere 7th-tier transcendent black dragon. The serpent apostle spoke in human language, but his voice remained unchanged. Then, with an appreciative look, he addressed Simon. Black dragon, the southern continent is indeed lacking dragon apostles. From now on, you will be my follower. Who are you? Calling me your underling right off the bat. Simon rolled his eyes disdainfully. He didn't rush to attack. The oppressive aura would constantly deplete the opponent's stamina. The longer it dragged on, the more advantageous it would be for him. I am the blood god, the god who wields blood and blasphemy. The serpent apostle proudly raised his chin. Becoming my follower, within 6 months you will possess power as great as the serpent apostle himself. I will grant you unparalleled potential. Advancement to legendary status is imminent, and even reaching mythical status is possible. Above legendary lies mythical status. Legendary powerhouses will be sung about day and night, becoming the objects of worship for countless people, while mythical powerhouses will be remembered for eternity, becoming a part of history. For a normal being, the invitation from the blood god would be impossible to refuse. To become an apostle of a god is an honor for countless people. But Simon clearly didn't think so. How, half a year to possess the power of a snake apostle? Simon sneered. The snake apostle possessed by the blood god was stunned. Half a year to reach the 8th level of the transcendent realm, and you still think that's slow? Advancing from the 7th to the 8th level of the transcendent realm within half a year is already a peerless genius. Such a person might not appear even once in 100 years. You must know that ordinary beings only reach the 4th or 5th level of strength in their entire lives. Those who can reach the 7th level are extremely rare, and those who can break through to the 8th level are even rarer. Unexpectedly, Simon actually thought it was slow, which truly stunned the blood god. Within 3 months, I will definitely advance to the legendary realm, Simon said with great confidence. Even the blood god was taken aback by such arrogant words. Immediately, blood cry god burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, advancing to legendary status in 3 months? What a pipe dream. After laughing, blood cry god's tone shifted, becoming sinister. Since you refuse to become an apostle, then die. Blood cry god felt a little power remaining in his body and decided to unleash that move. My body's magic power is almost gone. Even with a wisp of my consciousness projected, it's still too weak. Fortunately, I can still use one last move. Muttering to himself, blood cry god looked at Simon and said coldly, those who become my apostles will all gain a talent ability, and the serpent apostle's talent ability is among the best of my countless followers. Today, I'll let you see it. In his mind, the serpent apostle, whose body was possessed by blood cry god, immediately sensed something was wrong and hurriedly warned blood cry god, Lord blood cry god, don't use that move. But it was too late. Blood cry god controlled the serpent apostle's body and opened his mouth wide. His mouth opened at a very strange angle, almost splitting off half of his body. Countless drops of blood flowed from its mouth, quickly covering the ground like an endless ocean. Simon was tense, afraid to touch the blood, and immediately flew into the air. Only then did blood cry god hear the serpent apostle's words. However, he ignored them. He was a god. Did he need the opinion of a mere apostle to decide what he would do or what techniques he would use? Black dragon, this technique is called Mountain of Corpses and Sea of Blood, and it's one of my most admired techniques. It can summon all the enemies this body has devoured to kill. To die by this technique is an honor for you. From now on, this Mountain of Corpses and Sea of Blood will have an additional black dragon. As blood cry god's words fell, hands emerged from the sea of blood. One by one, lifeless, vacant spirits crawled out. Among them were humans, beasts, and humanoid creatures. In his mind, the snake apostle, unable to control his body, couldn't help but scream, "Lord Blood Cry God, this black dragon also possesses the power of devouring, and it's even stronger than me. Quickly take these undead back." If it weren't for Simon's devouring ability, the snake apostle would have already used this move to kill Simon, and wouldn't have been beaten so badly. Under Blood Cry God, each apostle possesses unique power, and the Corpse Mountain and Blood Sea is the snake apostle's strongest move, but unfortunately, it's too severely countered by Simon. The summoned undead not only can't kill Simon, but they also become nourishment for him. Upon hearing this, Blood Cry God's previously proud and smug expression froze instantly. "What? This black dragon in front of me also possesses the power of devouring? Why didn't you say so earlier about something so important?" He immediately controlled the undead to sink back into the Blood Sea. Simon, flying in midair, smirked, his gaze locking onto the most powerful and conspicuous figure in the Corpse Mountain and Blood Sea. It was a one-eyed deer man. Standing approximately 5 meters tall, judging from his aura, he was a 6th-tier extraordinary being, but due to becoming an undead, his original strength was reduced to less than a 10th. "That's him." Simon locked onto his target, swooping down with incredible speed. Before the one-eyed deer man completely sank into the sea of blood, Simon had already pulled him out. The one-eyed deer man tried to resist, but his strength was no match for Simon's, and being an undead, he had lost most of his former power, making resistance even more difficult. He could only struggle. Blood Cry God seemed to want to stop him, but he was currently in the process of retrieving undead, so he was powerless to do so. "Ow!" Simon grabbed the one-eyed deer man and bit off a large portion of his body. Then, he bit down again, swallowing the one-eyed deer man whole in 2 bites, devouring a 6th-tier one-eyed deer man undead, size plus 5.6 meters. Simon felt incredibly refreshed, his bones cracking, his size instantly increasing, and even the stamina he had previously expended was significantly restored. Chapter 63 New Trump Card. What terrifying devouring power! Blood Cry God was horrified to see Simon devour the one-eyed deer man undead in 2 bites. Especially after consuming the one-eyed deer man undead, Simon's size increased and his aura rose. Such powerful devouring ability would move even a god. "Black Dragon, I once again invite you to become my apostle. You will be the dragon apostle of the southern continent, and all living beings will bow down and enjoy supreme glory." Blood Cry God extended the invitation again. Simon's strength had also recovered considerably after devouring the one-eyed deer man undead. In addition, the snake apostle controlled by Blood Cry God was already exhausted, and its magic power was almost depleted. Even for a god, it would be almost impossible to control such a body and turn the tide. From the knowledge Simon inherited from the dragon bloodline, so-called gods were just more powerful creatures. As long as one could ascend to mythology, anyone could be called a god. Dragon gods had also been born among the dragon race, so Simon was not afraid of gods. At least he wasn't afraid of the blood god. "How, just some unknown wild god, daring to make me your follower, shameless," Simon mocked. The blood god flew into a rage. "You dare insult a god?" Simon snorted, his figure flashing forward, directly slapping the blood god to the ground, then stomping on him. "I insulted you, so what? Come to the southern continent and fight me if you dare." Simon's tone was arrogant and domineering, his demeanor haughty and arrogant. From the other's few words, Simon deduced that the blood god was most likely a god from another continent, and the serpent apostle was his messenger sent to the southern continent to spread his faith. The blood god could only kill him if his true form came personally, otherwise, his apostles in the southern continent would die one by one, just giving Simon experience points. As for whether the blood god's true form could come to the southern continent, he believed the gods of the southern continent wouldn't stand idly by. The sky's the limit. Simon wasn't afraid of the blood god's true form, which was thousands of miles away. You, stomped to the ground by Simon's foot, Blood Cry God felt endless humiliation. You actually dare to step on the face of a god. I'll remember your aura, Black Dragon. If you have the guts, never leave the southern continent again, or I'll make you wish you were dead, Blood Cry God screamed in anguish. As a god, to be trampled on the head by a black dragon, that was only at the 7th level of the transcendent realm. What was the difference between this and being thrown over the shoulder by an ant on the street, and then the ant defecating on your head? Ling, you have been afflicted by the blood desecration curse. Blood desecration curse? All Blood Cry God's apostles will be hostile towards you and will initiate attacks, The system notification came, but Simon glanced at it and ignored it. He would wait until he had developed his strength, then devour as many of Bloodcry God's apostles as they came. Is this your last words? Then die. Simon raised his right hand, and the ancient dragon thunder spear instantly materialized. He was ruthless. The thunder spear plunged into the snake's head and exploded violently. Chunks of flesh flew everywhere, blood flowed freely. The surroundings were a scene of utter devastation. The ground was scorched by lightning, and the former orc tribe was nowhere to be seen. I won. Simon's eyes gleamed with the excitement of surviving. In this life-or-death battle, he had killed the serpent apostle. Even a wisp of Bloodcry God's consciousness was of no use. After the initial excitement, Simon began to enjoy the spoils of his victory. Having devoured Bloodcry God's 8th-tier serpent apostle, size increased by 14.3 meters, because Simon had already broken through to the 7th tier. Devouring the 8th-tier serpent apostle didn't produce the exaggerated boost he had imagined, unlike at the 6th tier where simply eating a segment of its tail would increase his size by more than 2 meters. However, an increase of more than 10 meters was still considerable. Congratulations on successfully devouring Bloodcry God's serpent apostle. Lottery draw chance +1. Simon activated the system panel with a thought name. Simon level 7 height 56.05 meters skills. Feast, Roar of the Fire Dragon, Ancient Dragon Thunder Spear, Pressure number of lottery draws. 1 Task 1, you have set lofty goals. Please advance to Legendary within 3 months. Task Reward, Lottery Draw +1. Task 2, please unify the Magic Crystal Forest and establish your own territory. Task Reward, Lottery Draw +2. Simon looked at his task list, lost in thought. Task 2's reward is 2 lottery draws. More than the reward for advancing to Legendary in 3 months. Judging from my experience defeating the Serpent Apostle, this isn't worth such a significant increase in the system's reward. Could it be related to the elf tribe? Simon pondered. Advancing to Legendary in 3 months only rewards 1 lottery draw, but unifying the Magic Crystal Forest rewards 2. A bold guess surfaced in Simon's mind. Could there be a legendary expert in the elf tribe? This was highly likely. Fortunately, Task 2 had no time limit, so Simon could deal with the elf tribe after advancing to Legendary. System, draw a prize. Simon used the reward he had just received without hesitation, drawing a prize. Congratulations. You have drawn the skill, Kayakin. Skill description, a technique created by King Kai himself. It's a technique that can increase one's combat power several times or even dozens of times in a short period of time, but it puts a great strain on the body. If it exceeds the body's limit, the body will become paralyzed. Source, Dragon Ball, Kayakin. Simon's eyes lit up. This is an extremely powerful technique, but it needs to be used in moderation. Once it exceeds the limit, the body will not be able to withstand it. Very good. From now on I have another trump card. Simon nodded in satisfaction. He put away the system, glanced at the ravaged orc tribe, ignored it, and spread his wings, flying into the sky. In the previous battle with the Serpent Apostle, the opponent's techniques were extremely corrosive. Now Simon looked incredibly disheveled. His scales were almost completely corroded away, leaving only a blurry mass of flesh and blood. Even Simon's proud, enormous wings were tattered and riddled with holes. If Simon hadn't possessed sufficient strength, he probably wouldn't even be able to fly. Within the territory, the Goblin and Lizardman tribes' followers were all very worried. Do you think Lord Black Dragon will win? The followers gathered together, and a goblin asked anxiously. Goblin stepped forward and slapped the goblin on the head. Of course he'll win. That's Lord Black Dragon. Slapped. The goblin winced and clutched his head, but still couldn't help but retort. But that snake is an apostle of the gods. Even a dragon can't fight against a god, can it? The little elf Andy pounced and smashed a dragon scale into the goblin's head. HMPH. So what if he is a god? Simon will definitely win. If he dies, then my fairy flower king will have been wasted. Chapter 64. The followers yearn to become stronger. That's right, Lord Black Dragon will definitely defeat the enemy. The followers were convinced of this. Among the lizardmen, the old lizardman Abby stroked his chin, thinking to himself, if the Black Dragon dies like this, can the lizardman tribe take the opportunity to break away and perhaps even annex the goblin tribe? Indeed, Abby still harbored the idea of breaking free from Simon's control. Now, having learned from others that Simon was going to fight an apostle of a god, he was even more tempted. Of course, as the saying goes, old age makes one shrewd. Given Abby's cautious nature, he would not act rashly. Unless Simon was truly dead, Abby would not make any move. He was like an old wolf, lying in wait, searching for a way for the tribe to survive. Just as the followers were discussing among themselves, a huge figure finally appeared in the distant sky. It's the Lord Black Dragon. Lord Black Dragon has returned, goblins shouted excitedly. Now that Lord Black Dragon has returned, does that mean he successfully killed the apostle of the god? Bray's eyes revealed his worship of the powerful. The figure on the horizon grew closer. Even the dim-witted goblins noticed Simon's change. Lord Black Dragon has become even stronger. Don't let Simon's current wounded, bloody, and disheveled appearance fool you. His aura was undeniably that of a 7th-tier dragon, and his size had increased dramatically. As a dragon over 50 meters long, Simon exuded an undeniable sense of oppression. Even just standing there was enough to inspire awe. Simon, flying in from afar, had wingspans exceeding 100 meters. After Simon returned to his territory, Bray immediately stepped forward and asked, Lord Black Dragon, did you kill the apostle of the god? Simon nodded slightly, answering indifferently, as if he had swatted a fly. Of course, all the followers present, including Abby who had been harboring ulterior motives, couldn't help but gasp. That was an apostle of the gods. Abby's expression was complex. He knew that while Simon's strength had increased, the chances of him leading the tribe to escape were lower. Just like now, all the lizardmen, upon hearing that Simon had killed an apostle of the gods, were filled with immense worship, practically wanting to kneel down and kowtow to him on the spot. I'm exhausted from this battle and need to rest. The orc tribe has been wiped out. You can continue your work as usual, and don't disturb me unless necessary, Simon said, walking towards a clearing in the distance. The battle with the snake apostle had already left Simon physically and mentally exhausted. Fortunately, the blood cry god lacked information about him and randomly summoned undead, which actually helped him recover his strength. Otherwise, continuing the fight would have been difficult. Simon lay down on the ground, closed his eyes, and fell fast asleep. The followers continued to discuss the topic. Does anyone want to go to the orc tribe to watch the battle between Lord Black Dragon and the apostle of the gods? Bray suggested first. I want to go. Me too, count me in. Over 90% of the followers raised their hands. The followers set off in a grand procession towards the battlefield between the Black Dragon and the apostle of the gods. When they arrived at the battlefield, they saw blood everywhere. The atmosphere of battle had not completely subsided. The thick stench of blood was almost tangible. In addition, there was a lot of blood on the ground that exuded the pressure of the dragon. That was clearly the blood that had dripped from Simon's wounds. Is this the battlefield between the apostle of the gods and Lord Black Dragon? It's terrifying. There's no trace of the orcs ever living here, more than just traces. All the orc tribe buildings are gone. They must have vanished in the battle. Goblin, please teach me. I want to become stronger too. Goblin, me too. I want to have the power of Lord Black Dragon. Some goblins approached the tribal chief. At this moment, no one laughed at these goblins' wishful thinking. Because everyone also longed to have such power. Goblin didn't answer the goblins, but instead walked towards Bray. Bray, please help me break through to the 2nd tier. Bray's face twitched. You all come to me for advice, but who can I ask for advice? 10 days passed in a flash. The sun and moon alternated in the sky, day and night revolved. Simon finally opened his eyes, waking from his sleep. Andy, how long have I been asleep? Simon saw the little elf passing by as soon as he opened his eyes. The little elf Andy looked even smaller in front of him now. If it weren't for the dragon's excellent eyesight, Simon would have almost missed the little guy. Oh, Simon, you're awake. The little elf Andy was startled by Simon. You've slept for a full 10 days. Simon nodded slightly upon hearing this. 10 days, that's about what I expected. The exertion was great, so I slept for a long time. But my injuries are only barely half healed. Simon checked his injuries. Much of his flesh had grown back, and his scales were slowly regrowing. But he was still far from fully recovered. This would severely impact Simon's combat power, which is closely related to his growth rate. Only by defeating sufficiently powerful enemies can he rapidly increase his strength. Judging from my current strength, to break through to the 8th rank, I might need to reach a size of 70 meters. As his strength increases, the difficulty of breaking through also increases. Putting aside improving my strength for now, I need to heal my injuries. It takes 100 days to recover from a broken bone. If I want to fully recover, I'll need to lie in bed for at least half a year. Perhaps I can find some other treatment methods. Since it's a fantasy world, it makes sense for there to be healers. He could capture a healer to heal him 24/7. The effect might be less than ideal, but it would be better than recovering naturally. The elven tribe is incredibly mysterious. Perhaps there are healers or healing medicines there, but unfortunately, he can't find their location at all. Simon closed his eyes and pondered for a while. After a long time, an idea surfaced in his mind. With my current strength, I wouldn't be afraid even against humans. With my 7th tier power, I wouldn't fear anti-air spells cast by ordinary mages. Should I go to Lin City? No, I'm seriously injured right now, and I don't even know if that so-called legendary mage has returned. Going to Lin City rashly would be far too dangerous. Simon decisively rejected the decision. Then let's trade with humans. There are many monsters in the magic crystal forest, and the magic crystal mines are Lin City's main source of income. Human adventurers and merchants often pass through the forest. To avoid that legendary mage, I can't show myself. It's time for my followers to come in handy. Chapter 65. We are civilized people. I thought these followers were too weak to be of any help, but it seems I was too arrogant. Simon chuckled self-deprecatingly. Andy, go and call Bray and Goblin over. Simon thought for a moment and added, and call Abby too. Who's Abby? The little elf. Andy clearly hadn't cultivated good relationships. He didn't even recognize the Lizardman tribe's leader. The oldest guy in the Lizardman tribe? Oh, that old guy. He looks wicked. I always feel like he's up to something, Andy muttered. But Andy's job was easy. He usually just took care of the fairy flowers. Now that Simon was asking him to run errands, Andy didn't mind and readily agreed. A short while later, Andy brought the three of them to Simon. Lord Black Dragon, you're finally awake. Goblin stepped forward, winking at Simon and occasionally showing off his muscles. Simon looked closely and said with interest, 2nd tier intermediate level. You've grown quite a bit in just one nap. Goblin was clearly delighted by Simon's praise. Not only that, Lord Black Dragon, these past few days we've mastered the methods of blackfish farming, successfully opened a 2nd fishing ground, and at the same time, the goblin population of the tribe has greatly increased. Now we're reaching 84 people, of which 65 are capable fighters. Goblin excitedly reported on the goblin tribe's development in recent days. Simon didn't interrupt, listening quietly. Bray, you've broken through too. Simon sensed an unstable aura emanating from Bray. Yes, Lord Black Dragon, I just broke through to the 4th tier a few days ago, Bray said with some pride. Simon nodded in satisfaction. A 4th tier lizardman was indeed very powerful. Most of the extraordinary warriors in the Lizardman tribe were 1st tier, with few 2nd tier. Even among the vast human population, Bray was considered a fairly strong elite. Having a 4th tier follower made things much easier. Unlike the rapidly developing Goblin tribe, the Lizardman tribe hadn't changed much. Therefore, Bray and Abby didn't have much to report. You've all seen my situation. I'm severely injured and won't recover quickly, so I need you to do some things. Simon paused, then added, doing this well will only benefit you all, not harm you. The three exchanged glances. The impatient Andy blurted out, Simon, what are you beating around the bush with? Hurry up and tell me. Simon wasn't offended by Andy's lack of manners, just chuckled. Andy, what level are you at now? Andy was speechless, stammering, first level. How old are you this year? Simon asked again. 10 years old. Not long after birth, Andy had the idea of traveling the world. Taking advantage of her small size, she boarded a cargo ship and arrived in the southern continent. There she encountered the then dire Pigman tribe and was captured. The Pigman tribe then migrated to the magic crystal forest. After the Pigman tribe was destroyed, Andy was rescued and became Simon's follower, spending his days tending to flowers and plants. How, if I remember correctly, elves are born extraordinary beings, right? 10 years have passed, and you haven't improved at all. Don't you have anything to reflect on? Simon said with a forced smile. The more extraordinary plants I can grow, the stronger I become. If those damned pigmen hadn't imprisoned me, with my abilities, I would at least be at the 3rd level of the extraordinary realm, Andy retorted. His face flushed. Simon agreed. A flower elf, yet only able to grow fairy flowers, it was a waste of her talent. Humans have many good things at their disposal, sturdy armor, excellent weapons, healing potions with restorative effects. Why can't we possess these things? Simon's words made the four present fall into deep thought. Andy, being a knowledgeable elf, was alright. Indeed, humans have a lot of strange things to do. Goblin scratched his head. I've heard that human women are very suitable for us goblins to reproduce. If we could capture a few human women, perhaps the goblin population could increase considerably. I agree to raid humans. Bray and Abby exchanged glances. Abby, as an elder among the lizardmen and the wise leader of the lizardman tribe, immediately analyzed the pros and cons of contact with humans in her mind. Bray, however, lacked this opinion and decided to listen to Abby. Just as Abby was about to say something, Simon blew a puff of hot air, sending Goblin flying. Who told you to raid so easily? We're civilized people, of course we wouldn't do something like robbery. Although Goblin was loyal, his mind was too slow. As a dragon over 50 meters long and with a strength reaching the 7th level of the extraordinary realm, could Simon really be outmatched by humans? But the more he robbed, the more infamous he became, and Lynn City would inevitably send an army to punish him. Simon wasn't afraid of these armies, they would only be offering themselves up for slaughter. But Simon was terrified of the legendary mage of Lynn City. Even in his severely injured state, he would still turn tail and run if he saw a legendary mage. Not robbing humans? Then how do we get weapons and items from them? Goblin rolled a few times on the ground, stood up, and looked bewildered. Trade, of course, Simon said without hesitation. I want you to trade with human merchants. Remember, don't reveal my presence. While you're gathering information about the legendary mage of Lynn City, you need to purchase as many healing potions as possible from humans. This was Simon's main objective. As long as he was certain the legendary mage hadn't returned, Simon would immediately head to Lynn City to wreak havoc, plundering all sorts of healing potions to speed up his recovery. If he had returned, then Simon would have no choice but to have his followers obediently buy healing potions from merchants to help him recover faster. Given Simon's current size and strength, ordinary healing potions would have little effect, but it was still better than natural recovery without any treatment. Abby, you're the smartest, so this matter will be your responsibility. All goblins and lizardmen will follow your orders, Simon said, pointing. Abby was immediately flattered. Since becoming Simon's follower, his power had diminished, and he felt somewhat sidelined. He never expected Simon to grant him such immense authority this time. Chapter 66 Homework. Lord Black Dragon, Abby will definitely do this well and won't let you feel ashamed. Abby was moved and immediately swore an oath. However, simply securing Abby's loyalty to Simon wasn't enough. Abby's entire motivation had always been the lizardman tribe. He believed that following Simon, this black dragon, would inevitably lead to the tribe's demise. But this time, Simon had offered to let him take charge of contacting humans and trading with human merchants, which was a huge benefit to the lizardman tribe. Whether it was weapons, armor, or other items, human technology and civilization were far superior to that of the primitive lizardman tribe. Go. Think carefully about what we can sell and how to trade with humans without being ripped off. Abby, your job today is to think about this. Tell me your answer tomorrow. After saying this, Simon closed his eyes again. Sleep seemed to accelerate the recovery of his injuries. His body was riddled with holes and wounds. Fortunately, much of the flesh had grown back, and at least the bones were no longer visible. Seeing Simon fall asleep, the others didn't dare to disturb him. Andy spoke to the old lizardman. Abby, old man, the fairy flower I've cultivated is a second-tier extraordinary plant. Quite a few people should like it. I can sell a few seedlings. Could you buy some seeds for me? With me, a flower fairy, I'm confident I can cultivate even ordinary plants into extraordinary ones. As a flower fairy, Andy naturally possessed special abilities. For example, the so-called fairy flower was actually a first-tier extraordinary plant, but if Andy cultivated it with all his might, it could reach second-tier extraordinary, and Andy could even cultivate a third-tier extraordinary fairy flower king. Andy could also cultivate other plants into extraordinary ones. Andy hadn't told Simon this. Simon assumed Andy could only cultivate fairy flowers. If Simon knew Andy could cultivate any plant into an extraordinary one, he definitely wouldn't have given her freedom so easily. Fairy flowers. I've heard from others that the extraordinary wild boars in the pigman tribe became extraordinary by consuming fairy flowers for a long time. Abby thought of something. HMPH, don't mention those filthy, despicable, and shameless pigmen to me. Andy's expression immediately turned cold upon hearing the word pigman, clearly displeased. Abby continued, then if we lizardmen, goblins, or even humans consume the fairy flower, could we also become extraordinary warriors? Andy put his hands on his hips, beaming with pride. Of course. Every extraordinary plant I cultivate contains the purest extraordinary power. Any creature that consumes it for a long time can ascend from an ordinary being to an extraordinary one. Abby gasped upon hearing this. He gave Andy a complex look, a flash of greed in his eyes. This ability was truly terrifying. No wonder those pigmen imprisoned Andy. If it were him, he would surely abandon his morality and dignity when faced with the future of the entire tribe. Then why haven't the pigmen ascended to extraordinary status? Bray asked. Andy replied, because the fairy flower has a hallucinogenic effect, the pigmen dare not take it. They imprison me, and I certainly won't reveal any other abilities. Those pigmen probably think until their deaths that I can only cultivate extraordinary fairy flowers. Hairhead hell, I'm so clever. Abby and Bray's eyes twitched. This little elf was really too naive. He revealed all his abilities so easily. Wow, you're really amazing. Goblin, on the other hand, looked at them with admiration. Andy's nose twitched high after hearing this. You've got potential, kid. After this batch of fairy flowers matures, I'll talk to Simon and give you a few as a reward to help you improve your strength. How old are you this year? Goblin thought carefully. I'll be 1 year old next month, because goblins grow very quickly, reaching adulthood in just half a month. Goblin was quite young. Pretty young, buddy. From now on, you'll be my little brother, and I guarantee your strength will skyrocket. Andy patted his flat chest and sat on Goblin's shoulder. Abby remained expressionless, but Bray was utterly speechless. Andy was only at the first level of the extraordinary realm, while Goblin already possessed the strength of the second level. Where did Andy get the confidence to say such a thing? Big sister Andy, from now on you're my big sister, Goblin said gratefully. Just as Andy was about to say something more, Abby interrupted her. How many fairy flowers would one need to consume to become a super warrior? Andy calculated. It depends on the creature. Wild boars are quite large, so they'd need to eat several hundred to become super warriors. For goblins, maybe 50 would be enough. However, fairy flowers cause hallucinations, and you could easily die. I don't recommend you eat them. Once I buy seeds from humans, I'll grow some edible plants. With Simon's permission, everyone in your lizardman and goblin tribes can become super warriors. Upon hearing this, Abby and the other two were shocked. Everyone in the tribe could become a super warrior. This was truly astonishing. Even the orc tribes with divine apostles only allowed adult male orcs to become super warriors. Although it causes hallucinations, as long as you prepare beforehand, it's not a side effect. I believe humans will be interested. Fairy flower seedlings can sell for a lot of money, Abby muttered, her eyes shining. She was confident Simon wouldn't be disappointed. Now that Andy has something to sell, what should we sell? Blackfish. Abby thought for a while and realized that the only thing the lizardman tribe could offer was farmed blackfish. At this moment, Goblin said, that's right, our tribe's former chief had several very beautiful stones that he brought back from the outside world. They should fetch a good price. With that, Goblin ran into the cave and retrieved a crystal clear stone. This is jade, Andy couldn't help but exclaim. She had seen humans trading jade on a cargo ship when she arrived in the southern continent. It was said to be an auction house, where a single piece of crafted jade sold for an astronomical price. Therefore, Andy remembered jade vividly. The emerald green jade before her represented glittering gold coins. Andy seemed to see countless gold coins beckoning to her. Old lizardman Abby was stunned. Andy and the goblin tribe both had things to sell, so was the lizardman tribe really only capable of selling blackfish? Isn't the difference a bit too big? Chapter 67 Contact with Humans. The next morning, mist swirled through the magic crystal forest. As a ray of sunlight rose, the mist dissipated. The black dragon Simon slowly opened his eyes. He slowly stood up and stretched languidly. Hey, Simon, you're awake. I thought you were going to sleep for a long time again. Aren't dragons supposed to sleep for days on end? Andy, who was tending to the fairy flower seedlings on the hilltop, was the first to notice Simon's awakening. Simon nodded. Time is of the essence. I don't have much time for a good night's sleep. He looked down. Because of Simon's massive body standing up, his followers within the territory quickly noticed. Abby, Bray, and Goblin came immediately. How's the work I assigned you yesterday? Simon looked down at Abby. Even though Simon didn't release any aura, Abby still felt a suffocating pressure. Lord Black Dragon, I thought about this for a long time yesterday and came up with the following items that we can sell. First, there are the fairy flower seedlings grown by the elves. According to Miss Andy, these extraordinary plants can be consumed in large quantities to elevate an ordinary person to an extraordinary level. This is undoubtedly a very valuable commodity, but we don't know the market price in human society, so we can't price such a treasure. Second, the former leader of the goblins brought back some jade from the outside world. According to Miss Andy, human society seems to really like jade ornaments, which can fetch a considerable price. Our lizardman tribe is rather poor. We can only sell scale armor made from shed scales and some black fish with decent meat. Abby spoke eloquently, but when mentioning what the lizardman tribe could sell, she couldn't help but show an embarrassed expression. Simon simply nodded calmly after hearing Abby's words. Abby's analysis was commendable, quite good for a lizardman. However, this wasn't what Simon wanted. Price isn't the point. Even if you get ripped off by the merchants, it's fine. My real purpose is for you to use the guise of trading to gather intelligence on Lynn City. Money wasn't that important to Simon. With his current rate of growth, nothing was faster than simply robbing. Once he advanced to legendary status, he could simply raid the entire city of Lynn's gold and silver treasures. Who could stop him then? Gather intelligence on Lynn City. The followers exchanged bewildered glances, confused by Simon's intentions. Simon explained, there's a legendary mage in Lynn City. Go and find out more about him from the merchants. Also, while you're trading with him, buy as many healing potions as you can. The followers nodded in understanding. Simon, seriously injured, didn't intend to get involved and left the task entirely to his followers. The crystal forest has many crystal mines, so many people will pass through. Alright, that's all for now. Go, I'm sure you know what to do. Simon stopped talking and closed his eyes to rest. Sleep can speed up the recovery of injuries, but a full recovery will still require a long wait. The followers quickly got to work. Andy flew up the mountain and picked a budding fairy flower seedling. The green roots still had a lot of fresh soil on them. Goblin called some goblins to bring out all the jade stones from the cave. Inside the crystal forest, on a muddy road, a caravan was moving forward. Quick, speed up. This is the crystal forest. There are many magical beasts here. Try not to fight these guys, the caravan leader shouted. A dozen or so wagons loaded with goods sped up. But suddenly, several lizardmen appeared in front of the caravan. One of the lizardmen was burly, with a hideous scar on his chest. Hey, lizardman, get out of the way. You're asking for death, the caravan leader, seeing lizardmen blocking his path, had no choice but to stop the carriage and shout angrily. HMPH, Bray crossed his arms and snorted coldly, displeased. A fourth-tier extraordinary aura emanated from him. The horses immediately panicked, but fortunately, the caravan's drivers were all experienced veterans who quickly calmed the frightened horses. Boss, stand back a bit. This lizardman's strength is fourth-tier extraordinary. A bald, dark-skinned giant stepped forward, carrying a huge axe on his back. He looked fierce and terrifying. Markle, you're not joking with me, are you? The caravan leader was startled by the bald giant's words. Fourth-tier extraordinary, that was among the elite of humans. I wouldn't joke about something like this with you. The bald giant named Markle was serious and earnest. Caravans often encountered attacks from magical beasts or bandits, so they hired powerful extraordinary warriors to protect them. This time, when Bray exuded the aura of a fourth-tier transcendent being, the caravan's guards immediately rushed out. A dozen or so men, armed and nervously watching Bray, stood guard. Lizardman, even with your powerful fourth-tier transcendent strength, you're still no match for so many of us. Leave quickly, don't destroy yourself. Markle, gripping his large axe, was sweating with tension. He was the strongest among the guards. But even Markle was only a third-tier transcendent being. As his strength increased, Markle knew the gap between each tier was enormous. If Markle, a third-tier transcendent being, were to fight Bray, a fourth-tier transcendent being, he would probably be killed within 3 rounds. Therefore, if possible, Markle didn't want to fight these lizardmen. Seeing the guards take up their weapons, the lizardmen immediately assumed fighting stances. It's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. We stopped you with no ill intentions. You're merchants, right? I've heard humans have many good things, we just want to trade with you, nothing malicious. Just as tensions were about to rise and a battle seemed imminent, the old lizardman Abby stepped forward. Kia, quickly bring out our scale armor, Abby called out to one of the lizardmen. Soon, Kia brought out a piece of scale armor. Abby took the armor and cautiously approached the merchants. This scale armor is made from our scales. It's lightweight, won't hinder movement, and also has good defensive capabilities. You can take a look, Abby explained as she walked. The caravan leader hesitated. Third brother, you're in this business, go take a look, the merchant who was called over looked visibly frightened. He hadn't dealt with lizardmen much before, but urged by the caravan leader, he reluctantly went over. Chapter 68 Transactions. The third brother, steeling himself, stepped forward and took the scale armor from Abby. He hadn't thought much of it at first, but his eyes lit up the moment he touched it. This scale armor is incredibly light, like ordinary clothing, yet the scales are remarkably hard. The quality is excellent. I'm willing to offer 1 silver coin. The third brother ran his hand over the rough scale armor, his eyes revealing his delight. But no businessman is without guile. Despite offering only 1 silver coin, he could easily resell the armor for over 10, making a profit of more than 10 times. Abby didn't know much about the value of silver coins, so she simply nodded. Alright, I have 13 scale armors here. Abby clapped her hands, and some lizardmen immediately stepped forward with the armor. Under the guards' tense gazes, the transaction was successfully completed without any mistakes. This relieved the guards. Fighting a 4th-tier transcendent lizardman was still too much pressure. Congratulations, third brother. When we reach the next city, these scales will earn you at least 100 silver coins. What a windfall. The caravan leader stepped forward, smiling, and patted the third brother on the shoulder. Abby's transaction with the third brother regarding the scales made the caravan leader realize that trading with these lizardmen seemed like a good option. Ha ha ha, all thanks to Big Brother's guidance, the third brother laughed heartily. Abby then took out another item. It was a fist-sized stone, entirely emerald green, crystal clear, shining like a natural gemstone. The jade immediately attracted the merchant's attention. I have another piece of jade here to trade with you, but I'm not sure about its price, so I'd like to trade it as a barter. Abby smiled. He wasn't stupid, he could tell the jade's value from the merchant's eyes. No problem, of course, no problem. What do you want? The caravan leader said with a smile. Jewelry made from jade was more than just valuable. As a merchant, connections are paramount. These exquisite pieces of jewelry can be gifted to high-ranking officials and nobles to gain their favor and goodwill. Such favors cannot be bought with money. Some high-ranking officials and nobles are not short of money, they simply appreciate such exquisite jewelry. The jade stone Abby has just presented is the size of a fist, enough to make quite a few pieces of jewelry. Well, first we need plant seeds. I have pea seeds, I have sunflower seeds. Abby had barely spoken when 2 merchants eagerly shouted. The caravan leader turned and glared at them, and this time they shrank back dejectedly. Besides that, we also need a large quantity of healing potions. Abby proposed the final item for the exchange. Of course, no problem, the caravan leader readily agreed. How about I exchange 3 doses of high-grade healing potions, 300 pea seeds, and 300 sunflower seeds for the jade stone? Abby thought for a moment and then nodded in agreement. After completing the transaction, Abby immediately took out a second piece of jade stone. The merchants gasped in surprise. This jade stone was even larger than the previous one, about the size of a basketball. This time, we want to exchange combat skills and magic. Even extraordinary beings have different professions. Thieves, swordsmen, archers, and other professions are collectively called extraordinary warriors. And the skills they use are called combat skills. Mages, naturally, use magic. Besides these professions, there is a special extraordinary profession that can use powerful and magical prayer magic based on their devout faith in their gods. This profession has nothing to do with talent, its potential and strength are entirely linked to one's faith in the god. The more devout and fervent a believer, the stronger they become. Therefore, learning prayer magic is much more difficult than learning ordinary magic. The merchants began to whisper among themselves. The value of combat skills and magic was undoubtedly enormous. Soon, the merchants finished their discussion. We have a 2nd-tier spellbook here, but the value of this jade stone isn't quite enough. Magic in Lin City is basically firmly controlled by the Mages Association. Outsiders would have to go to great lengths to obtain a spellbook. Abby nodded, this time not taking out the 3rd jade stone. Although there were still a few, Scarcity made them valuable, and Abby didn't take them all out at once. This time, Abby took out a green sprout. This is a transcendent fairy flower cultivated by flower fairies. Although it's still a seedling, it will possess the power of the second level of transcendence once it matures. Hearing Abby's words, the merchants all widened their eyes, afraid they were mistaken. Not only that, if one can consume a large quantity of mature transcendent fairy flowers, even an ordinary person can enter the transcendent realm and become a powerful transcendent warrior. Previously, Abby's statement that the fairy flower could possess the power of the second level of transcendence upon maturity was enough to shock these merchants. They only needed to cultivate the fairy flower to maturity, and then use it to cultivate more fairy flowers, so that the caravan wouldn't need to hire guards when traveling. When they heard Abby's next sentence, the merchants immediately went into a frenzy. I don't have magic books or combat skills, but I have money. I'll offer 10 gold coins for your flower seedlings. 10 gold coins? You dare to offer that? I'll offer 11, Pa. You only have one more gold coin? I'll offer 12, the merchants shouted wildly. In this world, strength reigns supreme. Who wouldn't want to become extraordinary? But Alice, lacking talent, they give up after a short time. Now, a lizardman claims that eating something can make one extraordinary. Who wouldn't go crazy? Wait, empty words are meaningless. I remember the fairy flower is just an extraordinary plant that emits hallucinogenic effects. Even if you eat it, it will only produce hallucinations. Are you saying you can become extraordinary within hallucinations? The caravan leader remained rational, not blindly believing. The reason was simple. In his youth, the leader had also pursued the path to becoming extraordinary, suffering many setbacks, thus always being cautious in such matters. I guess you'd think that way. Goblin, come out. Abby clapped her hands. Dozens of small, greenish creatures appeared in the woods to the side of the caravan. Among these small goblins, a huge figure stood out conspicuously. A giant goblin, a goblin warrior, judging from his aura. This is a second-tier goblin warrior. That's quite rare. The guards curiously examined the goblin, as if they had seen some rare treasure. It's common knowledge that goblins are weak creatures. And it's even more difficult for them to produce extraordinary beings. What did Abby mean by summoning a second-tier extraordinary goblin warrior at this time? Could it be that he transformed into an extraordinary warrior by consuming a fairy flower? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 News of the Legendary Magician. Elder Abby, is it finally my turn to make my appearance? Goblin asked, looking eager to take the stage. He had been itching to show his face for a long time. This was the first time Goblin had ever seen humans. Not only were the humans curiously observing this extraordinary goblin warrior, but Goblin was also sizing them up. His strength isn't that great, the strongest is only at the 3rd tier, not even as strong as Bray. Goblin muttered to himself, which was overheard by Markle and the other guards. Their lips twitched, but they couldn't refute him. Goblin, you've exchanged quite a few good things with your jade, including the seeds and needs and 3 high-grade healing potions, Abby said, holding up 3 small bottles and shaking them. The crimson liquid inside swayed back and forth with Abby's movements. Where's the last one? I brought 2 jade stones to sell, Goblin asked. Abby spread her hands, somewhat helplessly saying, I wanted to trade it for a magic book, but these people thought it wasn't worth enough, so I took out a fairy flower seedling. Goblin nodded slightly. A fairy flower seedling is a treasure. Surely they'll agree to trade now, right? Hearing this, Abby immediately showed regret. Unfortunately, these humans think our seedling is fake. What? Goblin flew into a rage. This seedling is our leader's treasure. You humans don't even believe it? Then we won't sell it. Selling it to you is pointless. I'd rather eat it myself to increase my strength. The two of them, one playing the good cop and the other the bad cop, were using a prearranged tactic. Some people immediately began to genuinely believe in the fairy flower seedling's effects. Although it was genuine, convincing people wasn't easy. However, this kind of small trick was no match for experienced merchants. For example, the caravan leader saw through their scheme at a glance. Abby and Goblin's reason for doing this was simply to sell it for a higher price. The caravan leader, though aware of the situation, remained silent. He too was intrigued by the fairy flower seedling. If possible, he too longed to become a powerful superhuman warrior, not necessarily with immense strength, but even just a sliver of power would be enough to fulfill his childhood dream. However, the caravan leader was experienced. He knew about the fairy flower. Consuming it would only produce hallucinations and had no effect whatsoever on becoming a superhuman warrior. Hey, Goblin, calm down. It's just a seedling, no need to be impulsive, Abby reassured Goblin. Then he turned to the caravan leader. How about this? I know you might not believe me, but I'd like to be your friend. This seedling has been growing for quite some time. It'll be mature in about half a month. After you consume it, come back to settle the bill. With that, Abby handed the seedling to the caravan leader. The caravan leader raised an eyebrow, as if deep in thought. Alright, if this seedling really has the effects you described, then you definitely won't be shortchanged. As the caravan leader, he was incredibly shrewd. Since Abby and Goblin were so confident, the fairy flower's effects were most likely genuine. The caravan leader knew that ordinary fairy flowers didn't have similar effects, but these lizardmen and goblins might have special cultivation methods. Plus, he wouldn't have to pay, so the caravan leader readily agreed. If it was fake, he wouldn't have to pay any price. If it was real, he would not only fulfill his childhood dream but also make a fortune, perhaps even becoming the richest man in the kingdom. Then let's talk about the spellbook, Abby said with a smile. I've heard that the Magicians Association in Lynn City has a legendary magician. Can you tell me about this legendary figure? Abby's face was filled with admiration as he said this. He clearly hadn't forgotten Simon's instructions. The main purpose of this transaction was to gather information about the legendary magician. With a previous transaction as cover, these people would never guess Abby's true purpose. A legendary mage? The caravan leader and the merchants and guards were all taken aback, not expecting the lizardmen to want to know about the president of the Mages Guild. After a moment's hesitation, the caravan leader said, There's nothing we can't talk about, but I'm not very familiar with him either. That legendary mage is very mysterious, even I've only met him a few times. Abby's eyes lit up, revealing a look of fervent joy. Is this legendary mage in Lynn City now? The caravan leader shook his head. No, he went to other cities' mage guilds for exchanges and studies. Those mages are all bookworms. If it weren't for that, half a month ago, the caravan leader paused. What happened half a month ago? Abby and the other lizardmen and goblins were all curious because the caravan leader had stopped mid-sentence. The caravan leader's lips trembled a few times, as if he was considering whether to reveal the matter. Abby's eyes darted around. With his sharp mind, he naturally noticed the caravan leader's hesitation. He quickly said, Human, we're very interested in magic books. Since one piece of jade isn't enough, how about we add another? Abby flicked his wrist, producing another crystal-clear piece of jade. The caravan leader never expected this tiny lizardman to be able to produce 3 priceless pieces of jade. 2 huge pieces of jade should be more than enough for a magic book, right? Abby said confidently. He had long seen through these humans' pursuit of jade. Even if Abby didn't understand why the merchants would spend so much money on a mere ornamental stone, it didn't stop him from completing the transaction. The caravan leader's eyes lit up when he saw yet another piece of jade. So many pieces of jade, if they were all processed and crafted into jewelry, perhaps they could be used to curry favor with the royal family and secure an official position. If he could become a lord or something, that would truly bring glory to his ancestors and a lifetime of wealth and luxury. No problem, of course no problem, the caravan leader nodded quickly in agreement. As for what happened half a month ago, you can find out by asking other humans. There's no need to hide it. Actually, half a month ago, a young black dragon suddenly descended from the sky and arrived in Lynn City. The president of the Mages Association, who is also the granddaughter of that legendary mage, wanted to tame the black dragon as a pet, but was killed by it. When that legendary mage returns and learns of this, he will be furious. The entire Lynn City will tremble with fear. Chapter 70 Humanity, are you ready to face fear? A black dragon. The lizardmen and goblins present exchanged bewildered glances. Simon's growth rate had been rapid recently. Each time he devoured an enemy, Simon would grow considerably larger. The goblin recalled that when he first saw Simon, he was only about 10 meters tall, which did fit the physique of a young dragon. The timing matched, and the size matched. Add to that Simon's request for them to investigate the legendary mage. Could Simon be the black dragon who wreaked havoc in Lynn City half a month ago, killing the legendary mage's granddaughter? What? Judging from your expressions, you don't actually know that black dragon, Do you? The caravan leader teased with a smile. Haha, how could that be? Abby chuckled dryly. May I take a look at that spellbook? Abby quickly changed the subject. The caravan leader nodded slightly and made a deal with Abby for 2 pieces of jade. Abby took the spellbook, opened it, and casually read through it, his eyes flashing with joy and greed. If he could learn this spell, then he, Abby, could also become a lizardman mage. The transaction is complete. We'll meet again sometime. The fairy flowers will be ripe in half a month, and I'll be waiting for you here, hoping to continue our trade. Abby politely bid farewell, turning and leaving with the lizardmen and goblins. This transaction had been extremely satisfying. Not only had they completed the task Simon had assigned, but they had also obtained information about a legendary mage and acquired 3 bottles of high-grade healing potions. And he also had many plants he needed to cultivate. Besides, there was the biggest unexpected surprise. They had obtained a spellbook. Markle, have your thieves follow them. A cold glint flashed in the caravan leader's eyes. Guard Markle scratched his head. Are you planning to not spend a single penny? The caravan leader snorted coldly, glancing disdainfully at Markle. I have a feeling these lizardmen and goblins are definitely related to the black dragon that wreaked havoc in Lynn City half a month ago. Do you know how much the Mages Guild and the Lord of Lynn City have offered a bounty for that black dragon? Because this matter had caused such a stir throughout Lynn City, many people knew about the bounty. Just providing information about the black dragon would be worth 300 gold coins. If we kill that black dragon, let alone whether we can do it, the Mages Association has offered a bounty of 200,000 gold coins, and the Lynn City government has also offered a staggering 100,000 gold coins. So much money would tempt even powerful extraordinary beings, let alone ordinary people. Moreover, that black dragon isn't particularly strong, it's only at the initial 5th tier level. There are still some people in Lynn City whose strength surpasses the 5th tier of extraordinary beings. With their numerical advantage, even a dragon would find it difficult to fight against humans. Rui Min, go there. Markle's eyes lit up as he turned to a woman under his command who had an extremely low profile and was inconspicuous. The woman was petite, although an adult, she was very short, only a little over 1.4 meters tall. Her appearance wasn't particularly beautiful, but it wasn't ugly either. She would definitely go unnoticed in a crowd. Although Ruimin valued her presence highly, after becoming an extraordinary being, she still chose the thief profession, which suited her best. Yes, Ruimin, dressed in a black robe that completely concealed her petite figure, responded and quietly followed. Ruimin was experienced. Knowing that there was a 4th tier being among the lizardmen, Ruimin, only a 2nd tier herself, didn't get too close while tracking, even deliberately maintaining a distance. She relied solely on her extensive experience, following the footprints left by the lizardmen and goblins. The lizardmen and goblins were completely unaware of this. They chatted and laughed all the way back to their territory. Lord Black Dragon, the transaction is complete. The legendary mage you asked us to inquire about hasn't returned to Lynn City. Also, here are the healing potions you needed. The caravan only offered 3 bottles in exchange, but these are all high-grade healing potions, which should help your injuries. Upon returning to the territory, Abby immediately went to Simon, who was resting with his eyes closed. He handed Simon the information obtained from the transaction and the healing potions. Simon slowly opened his eyes, his dragon pupils silently fixed on Abby before him. A sliver of dragon might emanated from him. Abby, stared at by Simon, trembled violently. Lord Black Dragon, what's wrong? Abby felt fear gripping her, her previous smugness vanishing. The aura of a 7th tier transcendent being enveloped the entire territory. All the followers fell silent, afraid of angering Simon. Even Andy, who feared nothing and had been in prison for 10 years and was indifferent to life and death, trembled uncontrollably. A little bug was following you, and none of you noticed? Do you think you don't need to be serious because you have my protection? Simon's lips moved, his voice booming with anger. Behind a large tree, Ruimin, who had come with the lizardman, suddenly felt his breath catch in his throat. A tremendous sense of oppression washed over him. The majesty of the dragon, the aura of a 7th tier transcendent being, and the oppression scale combined to attack Ruimin's mind. Black dragon. Sure enough, there was a black dragon here. And not a young dragon, but a fully grown dragon at least 50 meters long. It discovered me. Was I going to die? No, I didn't want to die. I had sacrificed so much to finally become a transcendent. How could I die here? But this aura was as unfathomable as a vast ocean. What level of strength was it? Could I escape? Or rather, could I even survive? Ugh, Ruimin's stomach churned, and he could no longer hold back, vomiting with a loud gulp. Simon's mere aura had made this outstanding second-tier thief uneasy, his psychological defenses crumbling. At this moment, Ruimin had only one thought in his mind: escape. He would pay any price, even losing an arm or a leg. He had to escape from here. Ruimin moved, turning and running without hesitation. "I'm sorry, Lord Black Dragon, I'll go kill that human right now." Bray felt deeply ashamed. It was a disgrace that he, a fourth-tier being, couldn't even detect a second-tier human. Simon slowly rose, but didn't order Bray to pursue the human thief. "Whatever, let her escape if she wants." He took 3 bottles of high-grade healing potions from Abby's hand, tossed them, bottles and all, into his mouth, and crushed them. The potions quickly healed Simon's injuries. Simon let out a hearty laugh. "Since the legendary mage is absent, then there is nothing in Lynn City that can stop me. Human, are you ready to face fear?" Chapter 71 Revisiting Lynn City. Simon downed 3 bottles of healing potions in one gulp. He immediately felt much better. His flesh began to regenerate rapidly, but compared to the extent of his injuries, it was merely a drop in the ocean. Not enough. 3 bottles of healing potions are far from sufficient. Simon sighed deeply. He was enormous, over 50 meters tall, and the previous battle with the serpent apostle had left him covered in wounds. Every bloody hole in his body was like a deep pit. Although he had naturally recovered a lot, even 3 bottles of healing potions couldn't fully restore him, not even halfway. "It's alright. Since that legendary mage isn't in Lynn City, I have nothing to worry about. With my current strength, the anti-flying spells cast by ordinary mages have little effect on me. Let me go to Lynn City again." As Simon spoke, his dragon wings fully unfurled. The over 100-meter-long wings simply flapped, creating a violent whirlwind that caused the surrounding trees to sway and sand and stones to fly. Simon didn't explain much to his followers. With a flap of his wings, he soared into the sky. The followers were left looking at each other in bewilderment. "Where is Lord Black Dragon going?" Goblin scratched his head in confusion. After Simon left, the dragon's might quickly dissipated. The followers breathed a sigh of relief. Even Andy patted his chest, feeling relieved. "That was terrifying. Is that what an enraged black dragon is like?" Bray approached Abby and asked, "Old Chief, what should we do now?" Abby thought for a moment. "Bray, go and kill that human who followed us, to atone for our mistakes, and hopefully, Lord Black Dragon's punishment will be lessened." "Yes, sir," Bray nodded, then sprinted towards Rumen with all his might. His leg muscles bulged, swelling. His solid feet stomped on the ground, each strike causing the ground to cave in. Bray ran at full speed, leaving a trail of afterimages behind him. He unleashed the full power of a 4th-tier extraordinary being. Even a thief skilled in agility couldn't outrun Bray due to the difference in strength. The distance between the thief Rumen and the lizardman warrior Bray was closing rapidly. Whirlwind slash, Bray swung his machete, unleashing a wind blade through the air. Rumen sensed this and stretched out her arms, 2 sharp daggers popping from her sleeves. "Bee sting," Rumen silently chanted, magic surging and enveloping the daggers. With a flick of her wrists, the daggers flew out, transforming into streaks of light that collided with a wind blade. However, the difference in strength wasn't so easily bridged. The daggers were shattered by the wind blade with overwhelming force, its speed slightly reduced, continuing its attack on Rumen. Fortunately, as a thief, Rumen reacted quickly. The slight slowdown of the wind blade gave her enough time to react. Rumen rolled awkwardly to the side, successfully dodging the wind blade. Quick reaction, huh? A 2nd-tier human warrior is not to be underestimated, and your combat skills are quite good too. Bray grinned, but his actions were ruthless. The slowed wind blade gave Rumen a chance to dodge. However, Rumen's skill in dodging the wind blades allowed Bray to close the distance even further. Bray leaped into the air, raising his cleaver high with overwhelming force. Wind elements rapidly gathered, constantly coiling around the sharp blade. "Take another gale slash and you're dead." Bray swung his cleaver down. Rumen's pupils constricted, cursing inwardly. "Damn it, no time to dodge. Am I going to die here?" Just then, a loud shout came from behind. "Stop. Behold my blade of courage." The bald, burly man, Markle, arrived, wielding a large axe. His magic surged, and the axe shone with dazzling golden light. He swung the axe, sending a golden wave of energy crashing towards Bray. Markle possessed 3rd-tier strength, and his attack was incredibly powerful. Even though Bray had 4th-tier strength, he dared not take the blow head-on, and could only adjust his stance, changing the direction of his pent-up gale slash, throwing it towards the golden wave of energy. Rumin seized the opportunity and quickly retreated. "Boss, thank goodness you're here." Rui Min's eyes welled up with tears. Although Markle was bald, he looked incredibly handsome in Rui Min's eyes at that moment. "I felt something was off because you hadn't returned for so long, so I brought some people to find you." Markle grinned. The guards who arrived late from behind immediately stepped forward, weapons in hand, to confront Bray. Just when Bray thought he would have to face these guards alone, his tribesmen from behind also arrived. Among them, the leader was none other than Goblin, a 2nd-tier transcendent. Bray and Goblin exchanged a glance, their understanding now perfectly in sync. They nodded without saying a word. Goblin took the initiative to shout, "Humans, although there are many of you transcendents, we're not afraid of you when it comes to a real fight." That's right, just humans, we're not afraid of you." Goblin, beat them up. The little elf Andy flew out from behind Goblin, hovering in midair, swinging his fists and feet at the air in front of him. The humans stared at Andy with curiosity. This was a creature from legends, like a dragon, a little elf that ordinary people might never see in their lifetime. Tensions were high, and a single spark could ignite a war. Just then, a massive black shadow appeared in the sky. The shadow enveloped everyone, then vanished in an instant. Everyone instinctively looked up. What they saw was a colossal creature hurtling overhead. The creature was jet black, covered in scales, with a terrifying, grotesque face, 4 limbs, and a tail as thick as an ancient tree. Even several large men holding hands couldn't encircle it. A black dragon. The human superhumans were speechless. Having experienced Simon's malicious targeting up close, Rumin reacted violently upon seeing this figure, screaming, "Don't kill me! Don't kill me!" Rumin crouched down, clutching her head, trembling uncontrollably. Simon was completely unaware of what was happening on the ground. Upon learning that the legendary maid had not yet returned to Lin City, Simon, the entire dragon, was exceptionally excited. He took off from his territory, soaring into the sky, stretching his body which had become somewhat stiff from not moving for over 10 days, before flying towards Lin City. This time, Simon arrived in Lin City differently than before. He had only reached the 4th rank before, breaking through to the 5th rank only after completing a mission. But now, he possessed the strength of a 7th rank transcendent. His physical body was incredibly powerful, his trump cards were numerous, and his true strength was comparable to an ordinary 9th rank transcendent. Therefore, when Simon arrived in Lin City again, unlike last time when he launched a surprise attack from the sky, he flew openly and rapidly at low altitude, heading straight for Lin City. Chapter 72. How many silver coins does a month cost? You're risking your life? My name is Rocco. Half a month ago, I was just an ordinary sentry in Lin City. Until a black dragon suddenly descended upon Lin City. That black dragon seemed to have some mental issues. After wreaking havoc in Lin City, it only ate a whole roasted lamb. During the fight against a black dragon, the captain of the guard deserted and was dismissed, while I, because I discovered a black dragon and immediately sounded the alarm, performed a great service and was promoted to captain of the guard. All of this was because of my diligent work, dedicating myself to the land of Lin City that gave me birth and nurtured me. Lin City valued my earnest dedication, definitely not because I was recently pursued by a wealthy woman in her 50s. That black dragon, it truly is my benefactor. Of course, if possible, it would be best if I never saw it again. Today, Rocco, clad in armor, led his guard on a majestic patrol through the streets. Suddenly, the alarm sounded. Black dragon. A fully grown black dragon, at least 50 meters long, is approaching. The guards are ordered to immediately evacuate the residence. A loud alarm blared throughout Lin City. The serious voices of the staff echoed throughout the city. Rocco's lips twitched. What had Lin City done to deserve this? Only half a month had passed, and another black dragon had come to cause trouble. And what was even more troublesome than before was that this time it was a fully grown black dragon, exceeding 50 meters in length. For any creature, massive size undoubtedly signifies immense power. Just as Rocco was preparing to act, the black dragon appeared above Lin City, landing right in front of him. Boom! The black dragon descended, raising a cloud of dust. A colossal creature stood proudly on the earth, head held high. Although the black dragon was covered in wounds, it could not conceal its arrogant and domineering aura. "Hey, where's the place that sells healing potions in Lin City?" Simon asked, looking down at the terrified guards. Your armor looks familiar, but you're a bit unfamiliar." Simon remembered the guard captain who had threatened him earlier. Rocco snapped out of his daze and pointed shakily. "Well, there's a shop that sells healing potions if you keep going down that street." Simon nodded. "Thanks." He thanked him politely and strode away. After Simon left, Rocco's legs went weak, and he almost collapsed to the ground. A guard frowned and stepped forward, asking, "Captain, shouldn't we stop that black dragon?" Rocco rolled his eyes. "You only make a few silver coins a month, and you're risking your life? Can you afford it? Think of your parents, your relatives and friends, those who love you. How many people will be heartbroken if you die?" The guards were moved. "Captain, you're right. My family is waiting for me to support them. I absolutely can't die. I'll go home right now and tell my parents to escape." Some wanted to immediately go back and take their parents to safety. But Rocco stopped them. "Foolish. Leaving the team without permission will get you fired." After scolding them, Rocco changed his tone. "However, evacuating the residents is our guard's job. As captain, I order you to act freely and lead the residents to evacuate as soon as possible." Simon, on the other side, was unaware of what had happened to the guard. After finding out the location of the item shop, he immediately began to look around. Through the knowledge inherited from his bloodline, Simon was naturally literate. A moment later, he found the prop shop. The shop owner was an old man with some mobility issues, so he hadn't evacuated immediately. When he saw Simon approaching, the old man was filled with despair. "Why you, what do you want to do?" "My son is a member of the guard. If you dare touch me, my son will avenge me." The old man was so frightened he could barely speak. Simon, sensing no threat, was relaxed and at ease. Seeing the frightened old man, Simon, in a playful mood, teased him, "Is that so? Then if I eat you, how will your son seek revenge? My scales are impervious to blades and spears, and ordinary poisons have no effect on my stomach. How can your son kill me and avenge you?" The old man was speechless. Although he was old, he wasn't senile. Yes, how could his son possibly kill a dragon? Seeing the old man's silence, Simon chuckled. "All right, enough teasing. Now we need to get down to business." The old man was puzzled, not understanding. Simon bared his teeth, revealing 2 rows of sharp teeth capable of crushing steel. "Robbery. Hand over all the healing potions in the shop, and I'll spare your life." The old man was stunned, not expecting Simon's demand to be so simple. He thought his life was in danger. "What are you standing there for? Do you want to die?" Simon threatened. The old man reacted, quickly bringing out bottle after bottle of healing potions. There were high-grade potions, crimson like blood, and low-grade potions, as clear as water. Simon didn't care, taking them all. Under the effects of the large amount of healing potions, his injuries slowly healed. Suddenly, Simon stopped. He sensed many presences approaching him. Turning his head, he saw it was the armed army of Lin City. The soldiers in the army were all clad in armor, fully armed, their equipment far superior to that of the guards. "Black Dragon, Lin City is a human town, not a place you can just invade." The leader of the army, clad in silver armor, wielding a long spear and riding a magnificent horse, looked imposing. Simon sensed his strength. The leader was at the 5th level of the extraordinary realm. This was indeed a very powerful force among ordinary people. But against him, he was far inferior. "How, here I come, what can you do to me?" Having recovered considerably from his injuries, Simon was in a much better mood and challenged the leader. Simon's apparent cultivation level was only at the 7th level of the extraordinary realm, so the silver-armored soldier was enraged by Simon's arrogant provocation. "HMPH, warriors, lend me a hand." The silver-armored soldier raised his spear high. Behind him, a dense mass of soldiers shouted in unison, "Fight!" Magic surged, and the fighting spirit was palpable. The aura emanating from the silver-armored soldier rose steadily. Spear strikes like a dragon. The silver-helmed soldier leaped from his horse, magic swirling around him, his spear transforming into a divine dragon that lunged at Simon with terrifying power. Is this some kind of military technique? It actually elevates the strength of a 5th tier transcendent to the 7th tier. An ordinary person probably wouldn't be a match for you, but unfortunately, you're facing me. Simon muttered, slapping the silver-helmed soldier away. Chapter 73 Lin City, will slay the dragon. Silence fell, a deathly silence descended upon the scene. The soldiers stared in stunned disbelief at what had just transpired. No one had expected their general, whose strength had been amplified by the surge in battle intent, to be sent flying with a single slap. In an instant, the soldiers' battle intent waned, unable to maintain the effects of their combat techniques. The silver-helmeted soldier on the ground also saw his aura rapidly diminish, reverting to the level of a 5th-tier transcendent warrior. No, impossible. We're both 7th-tier transcendent warriors, but I had the battle intent of over 100 transcendent warriors supporting me. My strength should far surpass that of an ordinary 7th-tier transcendent warrior. How could I be defeated so easily? The silver-helmeted soldier lay on the ground, looking up at Simon in disbelief. Simon grinned, stepping forward and grabbing the silver-helmeted soldier like a grown man picking up a newborn kitten. Your combat techniques are indeed impressive, gathering countless battle intents to enhance your strength. To be your enemy is equivalent to facing hundreds of well-trained soldiers simultaneously. An ordinary 7th-tier transcendent warrior would indeed be no match for you, but I am a dragon, Simon declared arrogantly. Looking at the silver-armored warrior at the 5th level of the transcendent realm before him, Simon hesitated for a moment, but still did not devour him. Even though he had become a dragon, even though devouring others would rapidly increase his strength, Simon, with his memories as a human, was still unwilling to consume humans. Psychologically, Simon couldn't cross this threshold. Not eating people was a principle, but killing was not an issue. However, keeping the silver-armored warrior alive was still useful, so Simon didn't kill him immediately. Simon picked up the silver-armored warrior like a chicken. The hostage is in my hands. Now you're robbing me. Bring all the healing potions in Lin City, or I'll kill him. Simon's expression was ferocious, a cruel sneer on his face. The silver-armored warrior was filled with shame and indignation. Evil dragon, do you think I'm afraid of death? If you have the guts, just kill me. Let me tell you, there are several units like our war dragon army in Lin City. Even if you kill one of me, there are still thousands upon thousands of others like me. Dare to defend my Lin City, evil dragon. Today is your death day. The silver-armored warrior was ready to die. But Simon didn't care. You're fearless, that's impressive, but so what? Do you think your men will just stand by and watch you die before their eyes? Simon sneered menacingly. With a flick of his finger, he pierced the armor of the silver-helmeted soldier, leaving a bloody hole in his body. Blood stained his fingernails, making Simon look even more ferocious. What, are you all still standing there, planning to watch me torture your general to death? Simon's face was icy, his methods ruthless. The soldiers had no choice but to move. The prop shop owner, witnessing this, felt even more despair. He never imagined that the renowned war dragon army of Lin City would be no match for this evil dragon. It seemed that from today onwards, the war dragon army would have to be renamed the Defeat Dragon Army. Inside the conference room, the high-ranking officials of Lin City gathered together, each with a solemn expression. Only half a month has passed, and another black dragon has appeared. Is our Lin City so favored by black dragons? The city lord roared in anger, slamming his hand on the table, his tone tinged with helplessness. Speak up, everyone. What's a good way to get rid of that black dragon? The black dragon's arrival was blatant, and with the legendary mage of the Mages Association not in Lin City, all the high-ranking officials gathered immediately for a meeting the moment it appeared. An elderly man with white hair said, a black dragon is a treasure trove. Its blood is a precious magical material, and its scales can be made into excellent armor. So I suggest we just kill that black dragon. This statement immediately drew ridicule. This is a 50-meter-long adult dragon, not a 10-meter-long youth dragon from half a month ago. To think you can kill it? I think you've lost your mind, someone immediately retorted. However, the retorter received no support from the others. In the meeting room, everyone, including the city lord, nodded in agreement. Indeed, if we can kill a black dragon, it won't just be the monetary value it brings, the reputation alone will be enough to make Lin City famous. The person who objected had a strange expression. Are you all crazy? That's a fully grown dragon. What do you think you can do to kill it? The white-haired old man sneered, cursing, you idiot. That black dragon was already severely injured before it arrived, and its strength is only at the 7th level of the extraordinary realm. Ordinary fully grown dragons might be impossible to fight without the help of legendary mages, but this is just a severely injured dragon. Why should we be afraid? The high-ranking officials discussed the matter and finally made a decision. Because of what happened half a month ago, it will probably cost a considerable amount to get the Mage Association to help. The city lord pondered for a moment. Summon all the troops. Today, Lin City will slay the dragon. In the center of the city, Simon stood there. Under his coercion, the soldiers of the War Dragon army sprang into action, collecting bottle after bottle of healing potions. Simon wasn't afraid of being poisoned and swallowed all the healing potions. Under the influence of the large amount of potions, Simon's injuries healed quickly. After consuming hundreds of bottles of potions, Simon's injuries were mostly healed, but with each subsequent dose, the effect diminished. Has he developed resistance? No matter how many more potions I drink, it won't help. Simon shook his head and sighed inwardly. Human-made healing potions were indeed convenient, but they easily led to resistance. Alright, no need to collect any more potions. Go find me some food. All kinds of food are fine. Simon waved his hand, stopping the soldiers who were still collecting potions. Simon thought of the whole roasted lamb he had eaten half a month ago. It was truly delicious, leaving the dragon wanting more. For the past 2 weeks, Simon had been eating either raw meat or just roasted meat with jam, and his mouth was craving it terribly. Now that he finally had the chance to visit a human city, he had to satisfy his cravings. Just as Simon was waiting for the soldiers to gather food for him, even more soldiers surged forth from around him. Simon immediately realized something was wrong. However, he didn't take it to heart. His injuries had mostly healed. Even if he couldn't defeat this army, escaping safely wouldn't be a problem. The army of Lin City is eyeing you covetously. You feel the dragon's majesty has been offended. Please repel all invading enemies. Mission reward, lottery draw +1. Chapter 74 I am the embodiment of death. The system's voice rang in his ears. That's exactly what I was thinking. Simon looked at the approaching soldiers, feeling no tension, but rather a surge of excitement. These were all proven, hard-earned experience points. Ha! The army of Lin City has arrived. Evil dragon, you're dead, a silver-armored soldier roared before Simon. Simon's expression turned cold. Shut up. Without another word, he slapped the silver-armored soldier into a bloody pulp. Black dragon, you broke your promise. The soldiers of the War Dragon army, seeing their soldier killed, glared angrily. They pointed at Simon and cursed him. Simon simply picked his ear. I never said I'd let him go if you collected healing potions for me. Since you miss him so much, I'll send you to see him. With that, Simon strode into the crowd, like a tiger plunging into a flock of sheep. With each swing of Simon's claws, someone was torn to pieces. With each flick of his tail, bones shattered, internal organs destroyed, and someone died instantly. These soldiers were generally around the 3rd level of the extraordinary realm. They would be considered elites among humans, but before Simon, they were nothing. Their attacks were weak and ineffective, unable even to shatter the scales that had regrown on Simon. The slaughter began. Blood and flesh flew everywhere, staining the earth crimson. Stop! A furious shout came from afar. Simon halted his movements and turned to look. Several hundred mages in robes and wielding staffs had arrived. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, clearly those of professionally trained soldiers. The surviving soldiers of the War Dragon army were overjoyed to see them. Great! It's the Magic Guild, the Magic Guild. The Magic Guild is here. We're saved. The Magic Guild's leader is a 6th-tier transcendent mage, incredibly powerful. With the assistance of those other powerful mages, they can even hold their own against an 8th-tier transcendent expert. This dragon is doomed. The soldiers of the War Dragon army laughed wildly. Simon was speechless. Even if they were powerful, it can't save you. Saying this, Simon casually killed several more people. Dragon, how dare you? The Magic Guild's leader roared in fury. Simon sneered. I'll kill them. What can you do about it? As he spoke, Simon killed several more people. This scene made the Magic Guild leader's eyes bloodshot. Everyone, unleash your magic. The Magic Guild leader raised his staff high. The mages behind him also raised their staffs. The scene of hundreds of mages casting magic together was exceptionally spectacular. Moreover, these mages were different from the members of the Mages Association. They were soldiers, and their magic casting required great coordination. Just like the War Dragon army before them, they used combat techniques to enhance the strength of their leaders. After all, a 7th-tier transcendent expert is definitely stronger than a 5th-tier transcendent expert plus nearly 100 2nd-tier transcendent experts. The magic force's approach is somewhat similar to the War Dragon army, but instead of enhancing their leader's strength, they cast spells together. A powerful spell might be impossible for one person to cast, but when dispersed and each person uses a small portion, the combined effect can form a high-level spell. 8th-tier spell, Heavenly Sunblaze, the magic force's leader shouted. Hundreds of mages began chanting incantations around their leader. Magic power transformed into flames, surging towards the leader. As the leader, a 6th-tier transcendent mage, he was naturally the one in control of this spell. This spell was the culmination of the magic force's research. To use an 8th-tier spell with only 6th-tier strength was something no ordinary person could do. Magic surged, and flames rapidly condensed under the captain's control into a dazzling fireball, as radiant as the sun. The scorching flames distorted the surrounding air. Residents nearby who hadn't yet evacuated felt their mouths dry and their bodies rapidly dehydrated. Even Simon felt a sense of crisis. It's an 8th-tier spell. Simon dared not be careless and immediately countered. Ancient Dragon Lightning Spear. Simon stood on his feet, his right hand raised high, lightning crackling around his wrist, instantly coalescing into a long spear. As Simon's size increased, the Ancient Dragon Lightning Spear he wielded was also enormous, exceeding 50 meters in length. It seemed like a pillar supporting the heavens and earth. Lightning crackled across the spear, dazzling and overwhelming, even more radiant than the small sun of the 8th-tier magic before him. At this moment, the magic group's spell was also complete. The magic group's captain brandished his staff, magic propelling the fireball towards Simon. Simon, not to be outdone, thrust his enormous spear down. The sharp tip of the lightning spear collided with the fireball, the energy clashing and creating a terrifying storm. The mages of the Magic Guild were already fragile, and they couldn't withstand the impact, being blown away instantly. Only the guild leader gritted his teeth and continued pushing the fireball. For a moment, the two sides were locked in a stalemate. Seeing this, Simon silently shook his head, as expected, because his injuries haven't fully healed, his strength is affected. Simon was a 7th-tier transcendent, with strength comparable to 9th-tier transcendent, but this was thanks to the combined effect of pressure and feast, which allowed him to be unafraid of a 9th-tier expert. The power of the Ancient Dragon Lightning Spear alone couldn't compare to 9th-tier transcendent attack, but even so, it was definitely not weaker than 8th-tier magic. Now, Simon could only fight to a draw, ultimately because his injuries hadn't fully healed. However, killing a 6th-tier transcendent mage, even with an injured body, was enough. Simon's gaze sharpened, and with all his might, his arm gripping the Ancient Dragon Thunder Spear swelled twice its normal size. The increased force instantly pierced a fireball. Flames engulfed everything around them. A massive thunder spear pierced the ground. Boom! Thunder erupted, flames raged. The immense commotion shook the entire city of Lynn. As the lightning gradually dissipated, the surrounding area was already a wasteland. The flames continued to burn, leaving only corpses on the ground. Only a black dragon remained standing, unwavering. Possessing the bloodline of a red dragon, Simon was not even afraid of the flames, standing amidst the ruins, letting the fire scorch him. He brought fear. Tyranny was his defining characteristic. Wherever he went, nothing grew. I am the embodiment of death. Those who secretly observed all of this were shocked. This black dragon is incredibly powerful. Even though it's still injured, it's helpless against even 8th-tier magic. The lightning magic the black dragon uses looks so familiar. Just then, a figure rushed into the air and shouted at Simon, "Evil dragon, give me back my daughter's life." Chapter 75 is mine. Evil dragon, return my daughter's life. A figure shot into the air, hair bristling with rage. Magic swirled around him, a whirlwind of energy whipping around him, his robes billowing in the wind. Simon ignored him, for the system had already notified him that the mission was complete. Congratulations on defeating the magic group of Lynn City. Lottery draw chance +1. Who are you? Simon withdrew his attention, forgetting to use his lottery draw chance. HMPH. Who am I? The newcomer snorted coldly, his tone displeased and tinged with anger. He removed the wide hood of his robe, revealing a handsome face. Golden hair, blue eyes, a high nose bridge. His features were sharply defined and striking. Simon looked at the man before him and immediately felt a sense of familiarity. So you're the family member of that arrogant woman, huh? No wonder you're so angry. Simon grinned, clearly not taking the man seriously. You wicked dragon, you killed my daughter, and now you dare to laugh? Today, I will skin you alive and tear out your tendons to avenge my daughter, Cain roared, his face flushed crimson with rage. Half a month ago, he went out to collect magical materials, only to return to Lynn City to learn of his daughter's death. Cain sought answers from the city's higher-ups, but his strength wasn't sufficient, and given that his daughter had brought this upon herself by trying to tame a black dragon as a pet, the higher-ups bore no responsibility, and Cain had to let the matter drop. Afterwards, he went to the scene and used magic to restore the traces of the battle. The aura of the red lightning magic left a deep impression on Cain. However, he never expected that half a month later, the same red lightning magic would reappear. I heard that the one who killed my daughter was a young dragon, and you are clearly an adult dragon. Although I don't know why your transformation is so drastic, judging from that red lightning magic aura, I can be certain that you are the murderer of my daughter. Cain's tone was resolute, and his aura erupted. Magical power surged around him, a howling wind threatening to form a storm. Yes, I killed her, but what can you do to me? With your mere 4th-tier extraordinary strength, Simon readily admitted. Even a wounded 7th-tier dragon was not something a 4th-tier human mage could contend with. Cain fell silent, then slowly spoke. Casey's mother left me long ago, and my father was completely absorbed in his magical research, never caring about my life. My life has been mediocre. Only Casey, she was like a ray of light entering my life. I promised AC I would take good care of Casey, but you killed her. Cain silently reached into his robes and finally pulled out a test tube. Light flowed within the tube. Even from a great distance, Simon could still sense a terrifying aura of wind element emanating from it. What is that? Simon asked, puzzled. Cain looked at the test tube in his hand, a look of reminiscence crossing his face, his eyes filled with love. AC, let us become one again. With that, Cain opened the test tube, swallowed a light, and his aura instantly surged. Transcendent 5th rank. Transcendent 6th rank. Transcendent 7th rank. A gigantic, beautiful figure appeared behind Cain. The figure was transparent, appearing and disappearing indistinctly. Long, emerald green hair reached her waist, her eyes filled with tenderness. She reached out and embraced Cain, pressing herself tightly against him. Cain returned the gesture, grasping her hand. An elf, Simon raised an eyebrow, carefully observing the appearance of the phantom behind Cain. Green hair, blue eyes, skin as white as snow, and most striking were its long, pointed ears, like those of a goblin. How come they all have ways to increase their strength? Simon wondered. These humans are clever, whether it's combat techniques, magic, or tools, they always manage to research all sorts of unexpected things. At that moment, Cain in midair made a move. Aishi, shoot him. He stretched out his hands, and the elven phantom behind him did the same. A gust of wind gathered, and a wind bow quickly formed. With a flick of his wrist, an arrow shot towards Simon. Do you really think you can defeat me just because you've reached the 7th rank? Simon sneered. The arrow was incredibly fast, but Simon was no pushover. He reacted quickly, unleashing a breath of fire. The raging flames collided with the whirlwind arrow, exploding with a deafening roar, both equally powerful. Simon narrowed his eyes. This is just a phantom, yet it not only elevates a 4th-tier transcendent mage to a 7th-tier transcendent, but its attack power is also comparable to mine. This means the phantom's true strength surpasses mine, and by a significant margin. This suggests this elf is likely a legendary elf. A greedy glint rose in Simon's eyes. I don't eat humans, but that doesn't mean I don't eat humanoid creatures. Since it can touch people, it means this phantom has a physical form, right? Simon's muscles bulged as he lunged at Cain. Aishi, it's coming. Let's get out of the way, Cain cried. The elven phantom behind him immediately summoned wind elementals, its speed increasing dramatically. The elven phantom carried Cain at breakneck speed above Lynn City. Simon, not to be outdone, spread his wings and sped forward at full speed. Whoosh, 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 arrows rained down. Simon glanced around and saw that it was the soldiers of Lynn City attacking him. Simon unleashed a burst of fire, instantly turning the ground into a sea of flames, incinerating the soldiers. Boom, a fireball struck Simon's face, slowing him down slightly. Turning his head, he saw a mage from the Mages Guild attacking him. Die, Simon exhaled again, engulfing the mage in flames. In the fiery shadow, The mage struggled painfully for a few moments before collapsing to the ground. Rain of arrows, the elven phantom waved its hands, firing an arrow. Midway through its flight, the arrow multiplied, then multiplied again. In the blink of an eye, the entire sky was filled with a dense barrage of wind elemental arrows. Simon frowned. His massive size was enough to crush countless enemies in battle, but his opponent had clearly exploited this weakness, turning what should have been Simon's advantage into a disadvantage. Arrows rained down, but Simon remained fearless, charging forward. Kayakin, with a roar, Simon was enveloped in red light, his strength doubling, his aura terrifying. He ignored the onslaught and charged through the arrows. Cain, however, never expected Simon to possess such a powerful ability to significantly enhance his strength. He was momentarily stunned and unable to react. By the time he regained his senses, Simon was already before him. Elf wife, great stats, but you belong to me now, Simon grinned maliciously, pointing his finger. His sharp nails pierced the mage's fragile body, tearing Cain in two. The elven phantom began to dissipate. Before it completely vanished, Simon bit down, devouring a legendary elven phantom, size plus 10 meters. I'm a bit tired today, and I feel feverish, so I'll only update once. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.